Hello and welcome to Chinese Novel Audiobook. Explore our playlist for more captivating novels, and don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss a new video. Now, let's dive into today's story. Chapter 61, The Siren Sounds, and the Captains Respond. Boom! Balls of light falling from the sky instantly attracted the attention of everyone in Society. Crack, 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 crack. A series of wooden knocking sounds sounded at this moment. This is the sound of an alarm. At this time, it's only an hour into the night. The dead Shendu of each team was walking towards their respective team buildings, but when the siren sounded, they all stopped in unison. At the same time, the teams sounded the warning. Emergency alert! Emergency alert! Emergency alert! There are intruders attacking in Society. All teams are requested to defend their positions. The warning sounded 3 times in a row. The entire Society was alerted by the successive warnings. A team. The power center of Gote 13th Division. In an empty room, a bald old man sat behind a desk, and slowly opened his eyes when he heard the alarm ringing in his ears. This bald old man is the captain of a team. At the same time, it is Yamamoto Uenryusai who is called the strongest Shinigami in the millennium. Sasaki. Yamamoto Genryanagi said suddenly. Yes, Your Excellency Ping Zijai. A man dressed in white Houri came out from the darkness. Go find out who the enemy is, how many are there, what is their purpose, and then, defeat them. Every word. Yamamoto Genryusai's voice became more serious. In the end, he even got up from the armchair and walked outside the team building. Seeing the ball of light falling from the sky, he ordered angrily. Yes, Your Excellency Ping Zijai. After taking the order, Chojiro Sasaki silently stepped aside. Only Yamamoto Genryusai was left alone, standing alone outside the team building, staring at the ball of light that fell from the sky. Pity. The distance of the ball of light is too far away. Even with his eyesight, he could only see vague black dots. But it was this fuzzy black spot that made him extremely angry, and if it wasn't for Society's scruples, he even planned to solve it himself. How many years have there been no attacks? Someone actually challenged Society's majesty again today. It is unforgivable. 5th Squad House. Aizen Sosuke walked into the courtyard. Looking up into the air, staring at the slowly falling ball of light, there is still a gentle smile on the corner of his mouth. Come yet. The plan, it's time to implement it. Although it is slightly different from what I expected, it is not a big problem. Then, I will work hard on you, Yin. The voice fell. The same figure came out from the darkness. Are you ready to start, planning for many years? This is a man with short light purple hair, dressed in Captain Houri, and a smiling man. Of course, the actors in the pipeline have already appeared, and now it's our turn. Aizen smiled. He is also looking forward to his plan. Looking forward to the moment when Hogyoku will be fully perfected after the plan is completed. Really, it seems that the boring captain game is finally coming to an end. Ichimaru Jin looked up into the air, so that Aizen couldn't see his expression clearly. Kuchiki Mansion. Just got back from the camp. Byakuya Kuchiki, who didn't even have time to take off his clothes, looked up into the air, and a trace of astonishment flashed across his plain face. Natsuki just came to visit at home yesterday. Invaders have invaded Society from midair this evening. If it is said that this matter has nothing to do with Natsuki, no one will believe it if it is said. But, watching the ball of light falling slowly, the astonishment on Byakuya Kuchiki's face turned to disappointment. This is how you save Rukia. Single quote. Clenching his hands unconsciously, an unconcealable anger arises spontaneously. If we assume, before Natsuki appeared yesterday, he has given up on Rukia's execution. But after Natsuki came to the door, he was confident that he could save Rukia, but it gave birth to a glimmer of hope in the already dead heart. Fantasizing that Natsuki could really save Rukia. Never thought. This hope lasted only a day. Just with this ball of light falling from the sky, it completely vanished into nothingness. Rescuing Rukia as an intruder made Byakuya Kuchiki, who knows Society's strength, understand that this is nothing more than hitting a stone with a pebble. At the same time, the captains of each team looked at the sky together. Under this dark night, the ball of light falling from the sky is as bright and conspicuous as a lamp in the dark. Over Seraiti. Looking at the increasingly clear building complex on the ground, there was a trace of tension on everyone's face. Arisawa Tatsuki exclaimed, "Is this Seraiti, so big?" Ishida Ryu pushed his eyes and muttered softly. Although the style is backward, the Shinigami's technological strength is not weak to be able to build such a group of buildings. Compared to the amazement of the two, Natsuki had an idea, and looked at Ganju curiously. "Gantu, can you control the shield and fly in the direction of the 13th Division?" Chapter 62, The Power of the Thunder That Strikes, The People Who Are Forced to Disperse. Squad 13. Ganju heard the 13th Division. Looking at Natsuki in confusion, he recalled it before answering. "Squad 13, I remember this is the squad that Big Brother used to be in. Do you want to go there?" 13 divisions. Ganju is the most impressive fan team. When Shiba Kyan was still alive, he also played in it, and vaguely remembered a sick captain. The voice fell. There was a gleam of joy on Natsuki's face. He just asked casually, but he didn't expect Ganju to really know the location of the 13th squad, so he asked immediately. "Since you can go to Division 13, I will trouble you, Ganju." "Okay, I'll adjust the direction now." Seeing that the rest of the people didn't refute, Ganju simply followed Natsuki's idea. Under the control of Griffin, the shells really rushed in the direction of the 13th Division. At the same time, although everyone is curious, why do you want to set the landing point as the 13th Division? But thinking about the relationship between Natsuki and Rukia, thinking that Rukia had told Natsuki something, he didn't think much about it. However, Yoruichi's eyes flickered slightly. It knows more than anyone else in the team, and even the relationship between himself and Jashiro Yukitaki can be considered. Know that Jashiro has a gentle personality. Single quote. So did you deliberately choose the 13th Division as the landing point? Single quote. I have to say, compared to finding a place to land at random, this is a smarter choice. Single quote. And at this moment, Natsuki didn't know how to be seen through. Will everyone disperse during this raid? He looked at the building complex that became clearer and clearer, a little curious. In the plot, a group of people were forced to disperse because the shells were not strong enough, and they broke up after hitting the soul cloaking membrane. But this time, Shiba Kuzuru taught Ichigo himself. Ichigo's mastery of spiritual power has improved by more than one notch. Although there were some ups and downs when inputting spiritual power into the Lingju core just now, he managed to control the spiritual power to the same level as everyone else. No one interferes. Griffin's two-stage chant was perfectly completed. The strength of the shell shield is the strongest. Will everyone be scattered like in the plot? With curiosity, the shells landed to a certain height. The soul-shielding membrane condensed by the murderous aura stone appeared, and the cannonball directly hit it. Boom! Cannonballs and occult membranes squeeze each other. There was an ear-piercing roar, constantly reverberating in the air. But in the end, the full-body strength protective shield was even better, barely breaking through the soul-obscuring membrane, full of lightning and falling towards the 13th Division. Looking shaky. It seems that it will disintegrate in the air if you are not careful. However, accidents often happen at such moments. When the shells crossed more than half of Seraiti, they were still a little away from the 13th Division and fell. Boom! I saw a thunder force coming from the ground. Be careful, someone is attacking. Natsuki's eyes were sharp, and he was the first to notice the abnormality. It's too late, we're going to hit it. The Griffin also spotted the attack, but had no time to dodge it. This is fiery lightning howl. No, it's a higher-level Phylong Smite thunder cannon. At the same time, seeing the power of thunder coming, Yoruichi widened his eyes subconsciously, and quickly shouted. Hurry up! Everyone hold on to your companions, this attack is harder than a soul mask. But the sound just fell. The attacking Dragon Strike Thief Thunder Cannon hit the protective shield. Moment. The already crumbling protective cover. It was directly shattered under this powerful attack, and the impact of the explosion turned into Uzumaki, scattering everyone. Kurosaki-san. Inoue Orihime was the first to be thrown off. He looked in horror at Kurosaki Ichigo who was closest to him. Damn it, Orihime, wait a minute, I'll come right over. Kurosaki Ichigo's eyes widened when he heard the call, and he struggled to lean over. before throwing it off completely. Successfully caught Inoue Orihime's right hand. But the next moment, the figures of the two disappeared from everyone's eyes and fell towards the ground. Ichigo, Orihime. Seeing the two disappear, Arasawa Tatsuki shouted subconsciously. But she didn't notice at all. A new vortex formed behind her, and was swallowed into most of her body in an instant. Long Gui, grab my hand. Among the group of people, Natsuki is the closest to Longui. Before he had time to think about it, he stretched out his hand, and now his height of 185 came into play, successfully grabbing Longui's right hand. But at this moment, Uzumaki who devoured Longui suddenly burst, and the strong recoil directly pulled the two of them to the ground. Everyone, don't let go. At this time, the remaining few people were also affected. I saw 3 people and a cat being rolled together and falling towards the ground. In an instant, the 8-person team that was still full just now was scattered like the original work. But the difference is, this time the team members have changed. It became a team of Orihime and Ichigo, a team of Natsuki and Ryuki, and the remaining 3 and 1 cat team. This moment, the radiant ball of light that descends from the sky. It turned into 3 meteors, dragging afterimages and falling to the ground. This beautiful and splendid scene immediately attracted countless Shinigami, chasing away to the place where the meteor fell. Ding-a-ling, ding-a-ling. The bell sound from nowhere suddenly rang. Chapter 63. Boy, you seem to be very resistant to hacking. Sarai T. 5th Squad Open Space Center. Yeah, Captain Aizen is really a bad joke. Ichimaru Jin looked up into the air, but at some point a huge reiatsu condensed from his right hand, as if he had just done something unknown. Turning around and looking at Aizen behind him, he joked. Obviously we just need to wait for the plan to start normally, but we insist on tearing everyone apart. Listen to Ichimaru Jin's jokes. Aizen's expression didn't change at all, and he continued to explain with a smile. Saraiti has been quiet for hundreds of years, I think it's time for him to move. 100 years. Facing Aizen's explanation. Ichimaru Jin obviously didn't care, he waved his hands and went straight back to the third team's team building. Just before, the order from the first team has been conveyed. The captains of each team need to guard in their own team to prevent intruders from breaking in, but they don't have enough strength to defend. And at this moment, looking at the back of Ichimaru Jin leaving, Aizen smiled, then looked up into the sky, and saw 3 meteors falling from the sky. But he kept his eyes on one of the meteors. The line of sight penetrated the outermost spiritual barrier, and focused on the boy with orange hair. Kurosaki Ichigo. It's kind of curious, how far can you grow in Soul Society? Mid-air. Kurosaki Ichigo grabs Inoue Orihime's right hand. Seeing that the other party was still in shock, he couldn't help comforting him. Don't worry, with me by your side, nothing will happen. Hearing this sentence, Orihime looked up blankly. Seeing Ichigo's resolute expression, the panic in my heart gradually calmed down, and a flash of determination flashed in my eyes. I know. When speaking, his left hand unconsciously brushed the hairpin on his head. After special training, I have mastered the power to help everyone, not just hiding behind everyone like before. Then, Inoue Orihime's gaze was fixed on the ground. At the moment when the two were about to land, they chanted loudly. Huo Wuju, Mei Yan, Lily, 3-day shield, I refuse. The sound fell instantly. The hairpin on her head shone with a shine. Immediately, 3 elves appeared in front of them, forming a triangular shield, which successfully caught the two of them, avoiding the injuries caused by falling from high altitude. Wow, awesome, Orihime. Coming down from the triangular shield, Ichigo praised Inoue Orihime in surprise. A happy look appeared on Inoue Orihime's face, she can also help others. But more fortunately, the location where the two fell seemed to be a deserted training ground, not surrounded by Shinigami, giving them plenty of reaction time. The other side. Sato, Rain Dragon, Griffin, Yoruichi. 3 people and 1 cat crowded together in a ball of spirit particles, and quickly fell towards the ground. Hey, whoever thinks of a way. Looking at the approaching ground, Griffin burst into tears of terror. But unexpectedly there were 2 people and 1 cat with him. Sato, Ryu and Yoruichi are more calm than the other. I don't think you will fall to your death at this height. Sato rolled his eyes at the ground, and replied lightly to Griffin. My flying feet are enough to cushion the impact at the moment of landing. Ishida Ryu stretched out his index finger and pushed his glasses, and gave his answer with a light smile on the corner of his mouth. Damn it, Quincy is really enviable. Griffin looked at Yulong enviously, and then looked at Yoruichi squatting on his shoulder. Meow, I'm a cat. Yoruichi raised a paw, pointed at himself and meowed. Griffin helplessly sighed. At this moment, Ganju felt that he was really weak. The 2 people and 1 cat I met were unreliable at all, and it seemed that I could only rely on myself. Thinking of this, I suddenly became confident. Really, in the end, I still have to do it myself. After all, his eyes were fixed on the ground, and when the group of people were only a few meters away from the ground, he drew a circle in the air with his right hand and said loudly, "Become sand, Shibo." The voice fell. A ray of light emanated from his hand. It irradiated towards the ground, and immediately, the ground that was irradiated turned into a pool of fine sand. Next moment, 3 people and 1 cat smashed into the fine sand with precision. In spirit barrier. Because of being affected by Uzumaki, Longwei fell into a coma. Longwei, are you alright? Natsuki patted her face, trying to wake her up, but it didn't work at all. At the same time, seeing that it is getting closer and closer to the ground, Natsuki could only put Longwei behind his back and concentrate on looking down. Immediately, at the moment of landing, lightly tap the ground with 1 foot, perfectly removing the impact of the fall. Suddenly, crack, crack, crack. Suddenly the sound of coarse ore sounded from the side. Along with the sound of coarse ore, there are bursts of bells. Fall from such a high place, you can still be intact. Boy, you seem to be very resistant to chopping. Chapter 64, Slashing Zaraki Kenpachi, everyone is stunned. I knew it. Natsuki turned around helplessly. One is wearing a captain's haori, with jongyong hair and a small bell tied at the end. Wearing an eye patch over his right eye and holding a sawtooth zanpakudo, the figure looks at him with a grin. This person, it is the captain of Guti 13th Division and 11th Division. It is also the 11th generation of Soul Society Kenpachi, Zaraki Kenpachi. And the place where Natsuki fell down is the opponent's 11th team. At this time, Zaraki Kenpachi raised a ferocious smile and announced to Natsuki. Although I don't know who you are, but since you dare to fall into my territory, are you ready to be hacked to death by me? At the same time, there was also a figure on his back. A little loli with pink hair jumped down and said with a chuckle. Mr. Intruder, Ajien is bored, please fight him well. I have a name, it's called Mashu. Natsuki knows that Yachi Ryu has the habit of giving people nicknames. Before she gave herself a strange nickname, she quickly introduced herself. Sound falls. Zaraki Kenpachi on the side couldn't take it anymore. Stomp on the ground hard, use the powerful recoil to accelerate the knife and slash towards Natsuki. Almost instantly, the whole person appeared in front of Natsuki. Rustle. There is no skill in this knife chop. But the powerful and rough Reiatsu gave this knife an invincible aura, cutting through the air and making a whining sound. Ding. Although suddenly, Natsuki drew his sword at the first time and blocked it. 353. But Zaraki Kenpachi's exaggerated to pervert power directly penetrated Natsuki's body and pressed down on the entire ground under his feet. Boom. A spider web-like trace appeared in place. Zaraki Kenpachi couldn't be happier to see Natsuki take the knife from himself and still be safe. Ha ha ha, you really are very resistant to cutting. Little devil, your name is Natsuki, right? Put down the woman on your body and have a hearty fight with me. Natsuki also knows. It is indeed inconvenient to fight with Longwei on his back. Fighting got in the way, worrying about hurting her, there are still many movements that cannot be performed. Simply, put Longwei down directly from behind. Then he looked at Yakiryu who was happily watching the battle, and asked. I want to seriously fight the AGN you mentioned, can you help take care of Longwei? Here Natsuki want to fight seriously. With a pure smile on Yachinryu's face, he agreed. Okay, as long as you and a GN fight seriously, I will help you take care of this girl. Finished speaking, a Shunpo appeared in front of Natsuki. Holding Long Gui, who was much bigger than himself, with one hand, Shunpo returned to the original position again. At the same time, Natsuki finally removed the woman who is in the way. Zaraki Kenpachi couldn't bear the mad fighting spirit in his heart any longer. He laughed wildly and went to the truth. Ha ha ha, swing your knife, cut me, fight together. Smiling, Zaraki Kenpachi laughing wildly. As his laughter rises, more and more Reiatsu burst out of him. But, CJCF, Fitch. Zaraki Kenpachi's forward movement suddenly froze. Subconsciously lowering his head, he looked at his heart and saw a knife mark that was not too long cut here. Due to injury, blood slowly spilled out from the wound. When Zaraki's sword Lori looks a little dull. I didn't realize when the attack came. Captain Shinigami, don't be in a daze during the battle. Natsuki stood a few meters behind Kenpachi, carried Yuri in the sealed state on his shoulders, turned around and joked to Zaraki Kenpachi who was staring blankly at his wound in the distance. Certainly. Jokes are jokes. There is no shortage of vigilance in my heart. At the current stage, Zaraki Kenpachi subconsciously sealed his own strength because he couldn't find an opponent. But even so, the indomitable knife of his strong flesh. Still a serious threat, at least to Natsuki who has yet to grasp the solution. Ha 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 ha. Zaraki Kenpachi, who was quietly watching the wound in his heart. He clenched the Zanpakuto tightly in his hand, and laughed happily, even tears gathered in the corners of his eyes because he was too happy. Happy. He is so happy. Feeling the aura emanating from Natsuki's body, he couldn't help but tremble slightly. The skin on his body was as excited as a pinprick. Subconsciously looking at Natsuki, seeing Zanpakuto that was still dripping blood in the opponent's hand, the fighting spirit in his heart suddenly flourished again. A puff of hot air came out of his mouth. You are more resistant to chopping than the previous garbage. The moment the voice fell, Zaraki Kenpachi drew his sword and slashed towards Natsuki again, but this time, his sword had a bit more killing intent. I hope you can take a few more knives. Natsuki also raised his sword and slashed at Zaraki Kenpachi. However, compared to Zaraki Kenpachi's chaotic slashing, Natsuki's chopping technique is undoubtedly more advantageous. Ding! Two Zanpakuto chopped together. At the moment of contact, there is a piercing sound of iron clanging. Both parties clenched Zanpakuto in their hands, and pressed hard towards each other at the same time, but they were pressed back by the other party. You boy, that's not bad. Not to mention Kenpachi grinned. How strong is your own, not to mention Kenpachi is the clearest. But this guy who fell from the sky was comparable to him in strength, so he couldn't help admiring him. You're not bad either, you're the Kenpachi of this generation. Natsuki also smiled. The strength in the hand is gradually increasing, and Zanpakuto gradually overwhelms Zaraki Kenpachi at this moment. Bleeding outfit. This is the skill learned from the Quincy Handbook. Directly inject spiritual seeds into the blood vessels to increase the power of the flesh to ultimate. I have learned this skill for a long time, but it is the first time to actually use it in battle, but the effect is amazing. Yakiryu watched as Natsuki's power overwhelmed Zaraki Kenpachi. Not only was there no trace of worry on his face, but he smiled happily, and suddenly two dimples appeared on both sides of his cheeks. Natsuki is strong. This is the conclusion she reached through the fight between the two. But, her Zaraki Kenpachi isn't bad either. Yakiryu focused her eyes on the two of them. And at this moment, looking at Zanpakuto pressing towards me, Zaraki Kenpachi laughed happily. Ha ha ha, it's interesting, it's really interesting. But also in this moment, he exerted force again in his hand, and Zanpakuto, who was pressing towards him, was directly shaken away by him. Immediately, no intention of defending at all. The empty door was wide open, and he slashed towards Natsuki's heart with a knife in one hand, intending to give him the same injury as his own heart. Pity. Natsuki's sentience given to him by his fighting instinct. It made him aware of Zaraki Kenpachi's intention at the first time, and his body moved sideways sensitively. A flash of light. In an instant, a smooth trace was cut out of the building in the distance, and it slowly slid aside. No cut. Zaraki Kenpachi's eyes are even more excited. It would be too boring if Natsuki was hacked by him like this. At the same time, because of the huge movement when it fell, the members of the 11th squad got up to this one after another. hurry up, it's here. I see that it seems to have fallen to Captain Zaraki, go. Don't let the boss snatch the prey, everyone come up with me and find him. However, when this group of 11th team members, when I rushed here, I saw Natsuki and Zaraki Kenpachi fighting, but they suddenly shut their mouths and slowed down their movements. Quiet, keep quiet, don't move, don't disturb the boss fight. Anyone who dares to move and disturb the boss's battle will cause us to be chopped off. We'll cut you off first. Feel the number of Shinigami increase around you. Natsuki didn't care, instead, he took advantage of the brief moment when the two were separated, and made fun of Zaraki Kenpachi. Looking at the performance of your team members, they seem to be quite afraid of you. Ha ha ha, I don't care about them, as long as I can cut as much as I can. Not to mention Kenpachi grinned. Zanpakuto in hand is not satisfied at all. Cut towards Natsuki again, this time at a tricky angle, because of the left side of Natsuki's shoulder. If you want to block this knife, it means that Natsuki has to raise his knife to meet him, exposing his belly. However, I never thought that Natsuki had no intention of defending at all, and slashed away with Yuli in his hand. Ding! Puff! Two voices sounded at the same time. First sound. It's Zaraki Kenpachi splitting Natsuki's voice. Second tone. It's the sound of Natsuki cross-cutting Zaraki Kenpachi. But the difference is, Natsuki slashes Kenpachi, blood keeps coming from the belly. But Zaraki Kenpachi's knife stayed on the surface of Natsuki's shoulder without causing any damage. Watching this scene, all the Shinigami onlookers were stunned. Quote exclamation mark 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 quote. No, it's impossible, Zaraki boss was hacked. Chapter 65, the seal is lifted, enjoy the baptism of blood. Stupid. Looking at being stabbed in the abdomen. Zaraki Kenpachi whose blood keeps flowing from the wound. At this moment, all the onlookers, Shendu, who died in the 11th team, were stunned, and looked at everything in front of them dumbfounded. Really? This is absolutely impossible. How could Boss Zaraki be injured? Wait, Boss Zaraki slashed at the intruder, how did he not get hurt? But soon, shocked Shinigami looked at Natsuki. No, it should be said to be the knife that Kenko cut on Natsuki's shoulder. Zaraki Kenpachi is the strongest of the 11th team, and his strength is obvious to all. In normal battles, no one can leave a wound on him. But now the situation is reversed. His knife slashed at the intruder's body, not only failed to injure the enemy, but he was slashed in the abdomen by the enemy. Is this, really the Captain Zaraki they know? And at this moment, Zaraki Kenpachi simply ignored his own players. Instead, he glanced at the wound on his abdomen and manipulated his muscles to forcefully close the wound, so as not to lose too much blood and affect the battle. Done all this, he turned his eyes to Natsuki. Hey 710, your Reiatsu isn't bad, brat. Reiatsu word. Also explains why Natsuki was not injured. It's not that strong, it's just a little bit stronger than the Reiatsu on you. He flicked Yuli casually to shake off the blood on the sword. Natsuki was right. Zaraki Kenpachi because Reiatsu is too strong. The body surface is often covered with a layer of almost substantive high-concentration Reiatsu, which can isolate external attacks. But this layer of high-concentration Reiatsu is not unbreakable. As long as the released Reiatsu is stronger than the layer of Reiatsu covering Zaraki Kenpachi's body surface, it can be cracked. However, listen to Natsuki's almost provocative words. Not only is Zaraki Kenpachi not angry, but he appreciates Natsuki more and more. Haha, kid, I'm starting to be interested in you, you are Shinigami too, do you want to come to my 11th team? Natsuki did not answer. He just smiled and raised the glass in his hand again. Zaraki Kenpachi doesn't mind about this either, for him, inviting people is not as refreshing as fighting. But, this time he didn't attack directly. Instead, he stretched out his left hand and touched the blindfold on his right eye. Watching this scene, the 11th squad Shinigami onlookers stared wide-eyed. They were shocked at the fact that Zaraki Kenpachi was injured, but they never thought that Zaraki Kenpachi would have to lift his own seal. Who the hell is this intruder? With such a strong strength, why have I never heard of his name? Certainly, there is no lack of smart people among the Shinigami onlookers. Seeing that Zaraki Kenpachi was about to take off the blindfold, he quickly pulled the team members who had a good relationship back a few steps. The captain is going to break the seal. What? The captain wants to break the seal. Run. Hey, wait for me, you guys wait for me, don't leave me. The team members who had seen Zaraki Kenpachi lift the seal in the past ran away in panic. However, it is too late now. How could the speed of running be compared to the speed of Zaraki Kenpachi taking off the blindfold? Boom! Zaraki Kenpachi tore off the blindfold on his right eye. A wave of reiatsu that was several times the level before burst out. The air became heavy at this moment, making people feel as if they were wearing a thick layer of armor. At the same time, this burst of reiatsu, radiating towards the surroundings, wherever it passes, the ground is too fierce. Plop plop. The Shinigami who were watching the battle, even more oppressed by this burst of reiatsu and unable to move on the ground. Those with weaker strength lay on the ground with a pale face and kept spitting blood, and even fell into a faint. Just a breath. The Shinigami who were still surrounded all lost their ability to fight. Only the few sharp-eyed team members who left first managed to escape the catastrophe. Monster. Captain Zaraki is amazing. This level of reiatsu is simply beyond our imagination. Shinigami who survived. Watching Zaraki Kenpachi just burst into reiatsu. Such a terrifying scene was triggered, and they all swallowed their saliva with difficulty, conquering for the strength of their captain. And at this moment, after lifting the seal, Zaraki Kenpachi stood on the spot and moved his shoulders, allowing the reiatsu, which was so huge that it could be called pervert, to vent wantonly. Subsequently, turning sharply to look at Natsuki, he grinned grinningly. Little ghost, I've been waiting for a long time, let's start the second round of fighting. Sound falls. And it doesn't matter if Natsuki is ready or not. Pick up the long knife in your hand and step on it, attacking Natsuki with a strong recoil. Have you lifted the sealing device? The corners of Natsuki's mouth raised slightly, and he unconsciously clenched Yuri in his hand. I was able to hurt Kenpachi before because he was not in good condition, and he was wearing a device to absorb slave pressure while sealing himself. But now it's different. After feeling that Natsuki is strong enough to fight, he instinctively let go of part of his own strength, and now he added the unsealed device. The strength has been raised several levels in an instant. Facing Zaraki Kenpachi at the current level, he will not push him up at will. Zanpakuto had already returned to its sheath at some point. Natsuki held the handle of the knife with one hand, pulled it out slowly, and said word by word. Let's enjoy the baptism of blood together, Yuli. The moment the sound fell, the appearance of Zanpakuto in the hand has changed. The narrow, straight and black blade is 145 centimeters long, even longer than Zanpakuto of Zaraki Kenpachi. At the same time, a phantom appeared beside Natsuki, wearing a Zanpakuto at the waist that is exactly the same as Natsuki's hand. The moment they appeared, a faint blue reiatsu was linked between one person and one shadow. Fight with me. Follow your orders, my lord Natsuki. When the sound falls, it was also the moment when Zaraki Kenpachi appeared in front of him. A terrifying knife slashed at the two of them, and at the same time his mad voice sounded. Zanpakuto Shikai. Ha ha ha, brat, what else do you have, show them all. For this, Yuli swung the saber first. Block a slash from Zaraki Kenpachi. Natsuki followed the rhythm and slashed towards Kenpachi's chest. Ding! The clanging of iron tools resounded. This time, unlike the previous several times of successfully causing damage, the attack was blocked by the high concentration reiatsu on Zaraki Kenpachi. This also shows that, after breaking the seal, his reiatsu surpasses Natsuki. Sensing the icy feeling in his chest, Kenpachi grinned and said, Hey, kid, why don't you continue to attack me? If you don't attack, then let me attack you. Sound falls. Vibrate your hand vigorously, and vibrate Yuli's Zanpakuto. Before the two of them could react in the future, they raised their Zanpakuto high and slashed down hard. Scoff. The sound of flesh being cut by a knife resounded. However, blood gushes from Zaraki Kenpachi's back. He looked at the empty ground in front of him in surprise, and then turned around to look. Natsuki standing in front of me clearly. Why did it appear behind me and hurt me again? Puzzled, Zaraki Kenpachi asked with some incomprehension. Natsuki and Yuri stood side by side. Listening to Zaraki Kenpachi's inquiry to himself, he nodded indifferently, and then kindly reminded. A friendly reminder. My Shikai is all about fighting. So you have to be careful next, don't be starved for a second. Totally serve the battle, you say that, I'm getting more and more interested in your Zanpakuto. Zaraki Kenpachi smiles excitedly. He drew his sword again, and rushed towards Natsuki with a wild laugh, bursting out a thick reiatsu. At the same time, Natsuki is a little curious. Facing an opponent of Zaraki Kenpachi's level, how far he can do it, he said seriously. Then let you see it. The voice fell. His eyes turned to Yuli aside. The ghostly blue spiritual particles covered the bodies of both parties again 3.7, and the consciousness of the two was successfully linked at this moment. Immediately, Yuri stepped forward with her left foot, and Natsuki stepped forward with her right foot. Boom! Reiatsu explodes on two people. But in the next moment, they all condense towards the Zanpakuto in their hands. Lowering his upper body slowly, he stared at Zaraki Kenpachi who was attacking him. 10 meters, 8 meters, 5 meters, 3 meters. You draw your sword and chop. X2. One person, one soul draws the sword at the same time. Draw the knife too fast, even two afterimages appeared. But compared to mere afterimages, the blade glow is even more eye-catching. There are two crescent-shaped saber glows on the left and one on the right, crossing and slashing forward. Looking from a distance, it looks like a big X. Terrifying power. Sweeping everything along the way. Houses, concrete, and walls were all cut into several pieces by these two sword lights, and finally they were thrown at the enemy with an indomitable momentum. It's exciting. Looking at the oncoming X-shaped sword light, Zaraki Kenpachi's pupils keep shrinking. Subscribe to Chinese Novel Audiobook YouTube channel. Chapter 66. Zaraki Kenpachi defeated, angry Yamamoto Genryusai. Come on. Zaraki Kenpachi laughs like crazy. At this moment, he felt a long-lost pressure. With the X-shaped sword light coming from the front, the reiatsu on his body shoots up into the sky. In an instant, almost the entire Seraiti. Feel the huge reiatsu of Zaraki Kenpachi. A-team. Yamamoto Genryusai slowly opened his eyes. Looking at the place where reiatsu broke out, he said thoughtfully. It turned out that Zaraki Kenpachi met the intruder, so it seems that he can have a good time. At the same time, originally angry at the presence of the intruder. Also at this moment, it slowly dissipated, even almost disappeared. Because Yamamoto Genryusai knows, Zaraki Kenpachi's strength can be ranked at the top of Soul Society. With his strength, he will not be able to deal with a few intruders from the outside world. Treat several mortal characters. Yamamoto Genryusai thinks that there is no need to care too much. Team 6. Karakura Kuchiki who just rushed back to the team building from home. They also looked at the 11th team, paying attention to the exaggerated spiritual power of Zaraki Kenpachi. But, can make Zaraki Kenpachi explode so reiatsu? Inexplicably, the figure of Natsuki appeared in his mind. Have you grown to the point where Zaraki Kenpachi needs to go all out? 5th team. Aizen Sosuke is committing suicide. No, it should be said that he was designing his own death. He was holding a corpse in his hand. It was a Shinigami who was very similar in height and build to himself. Walked towards the direction of the Eastern Great Holy Wall. But the reiatsu that broke out from the 11th team made him stop. 29 turned around and looked at the 11th team. With a hint of doubt in his eyes, except Zaraki Kenpachi's reiatsu, he sensed another reiatsu. However, this reiatsu was different from what he expected. Not Kurosaki Ichigo, but the human who won the heart of Rukia and gained the power of Shinigami. The feeling that this kind of thing is out of control made Aizen Sosuke slightly frown, but the next moment he regained his gentle look, and whispered. An unexpected variable. Also, if things keep going according to the direction of the script, it would be too boring. Speaking of which, Aizen Sosuke suddenly laughed. The smile is not Zhongyang, even very gentle, but it gives people a feeling of confidence, as if everything in the world is under control. Besides, the captains of the rest of Seraiti's teams also felt the horror that Zaraki Kenpachi erupted at this time reiatsu. Everyone expressed a few words of emotion more or less, but then turned their attention to their own team. After all, Zaraki Kenpachi, this rude fighting madman. But he was never liked by the other captains, and some people even wished that he died on the spot in this battle. 11th Team. Zaraki Kenpachi is laughing maniacally. With his laughter, the reiatsu on his body swelled up, and even rushed into the sky at the end, dyeing the sky golden. Google. A few Shinigami watching the battle from a distance. Feeling the horror spreading in front of me, reiatsu, rolling my throat up and down hard. Horror. No, horror can no longer be used to describe the man in front of me, a monster, it must be a monster. But, fortunately, this monster is the captain of the family. Thinking of this, several people looked at each other and saw the same thought in each other's eyes. At the same time, look at the X-shaped sword light attacking towards me. Zaraki Kenpachi quietly changed from lying down with one hand to holding the knife with both hands. He condenses all the reiatsu in his body on Zanpakuto, and the golden reiatsu turns into a slash and strikes forward. The way of the sword, 2 breaks. Now, 2 sword glows descended in front of him. Clang, crisp sound. X-shaped faint blue sword light and golden sword pressure compete with each other. Reiatsu collided with each other, even if it was just an unintentional breath, it would cause a tremor when it fell to the ground. Click, click, click. The pressure of the sword and the glow of the sword squeezed each other, making an ear-piercing sound. But the pressure of the sword cut by one person, after all, is almost the same as the newly released Daomangdao. Hold on for a few breaths. The golden sword that cut out with all its strength. It flickered at first, and then shattered under Zaraki Kenpachi's incredulous eyes. Did I lose? I didn't expect that I would lose. He does not understand. Why did my sword pressure lose to Natsuki? I am obviously stronger. But before he figured it out, that X-shaped sword glow has already struck. When Zaraki Kenpachi lost his mind, he held his chest and continued to fly into the distance. All the buildings along the way. Under the power of this sword light, everything was reduced to ruins. If you look at it from the sky, you can see a long ravine in the 11th Team building. Small sword. Watching this scene, Yachinryu can no longer sit idly by like before. A shunpo chased in the direction where Zaraki Kenpachi was knocked away, leaving Arasawa Tatsuki lying quietly on the ground. And at this moment, the few remaining members of the 11th Team. Seeing this scene, his eyes widened in horror, and he was stunned for a while. Quote exclamation mark question mark question mark question mark question mark quote. This is what happened. Boss Zaraki was defeated, it's fake. Everyone looked at each other. Asked if the scene just now was true or not. But the shock in everyone's eyes says it all, the boss Captain Zaraki failed. This moment, not to mention these ordinary Shinigami. Even the captains of the other squadrons who sensed this battle through reiatsu were stunned. What's the situation? Zaraki Kenpachi failed. How is this possible? That is the 11th Team, the captain of the Seraiti combat team. 18. Zaraki Kenpachi's reiatsu has indeed disappeared. Hey, this is a bit different from what you said, your strength is a contemporary Kenpachi, how could you be defeated? Hey. Shocked. All Shinigami captains are dumbfounded at this moment. 18. How dare you? Yamamoto Genryusai's face turned black. Seeing this, Chojiro, who was waiting in the dark, restrained his aura subconsciously. He knows. The strongest Shinigami in the Millennium got angry. Zaraki Kenpachi, who was originally favored by him, was given to the invaders. This is not only a loss of face, but also the face of the entire Seraiti. Mere intruder. Defeated the Seraiti combat team. The captain of the 11th Team, the contemporary Kenpachi. If spread out, others may think that Seraiti's strength is just this. That's it. Any random invader defeated your contemporary Kenpachi, you guys are too trash. Yamamoto Motoryusai stood in the room, drawing the cane to the floor. Yes, your excellency Pai Zijai. Chojiro Sasaki came out from the darkness and knelt on one knee in the hall. Check it out. Information about this attack on the Soul Society invaders. Looking at the old man kneeling on one knee, Yamamoto Yuanryusai suppressed his anger and asked for the information of Natsuki and his party. Your Excellency Piagetjai. The covert mobile team has received corresponding information from West Rukongai. According to the information from the residents of Rukongai West, a group of intruders who appeared at noon yesterday, with a total of 6 people. Their purpose was to rescue Rukia Kuchiki, who was captured by the Shing army. Remittance 863 is halfway through reporting. Chojiro Sasaki's voice paused slightly. Seeing that Yamamoto Genryusai's breath is still stable, he continued to report. According to the direction from which the attackers descended, the secret mobile team judged that the opponent's tool to enter Seraiti is through the Shiba family's crane cannon. The Shiba clan. Yamamoto Genryusai frowned. He didn't expect that the family that had fallen to the point of being expelled from the 5 great nobles would actually participate in this invasion. Things were a little difficult. Things are difficult. Chojiro Sasaki sighed helplessly. He has been by Yamamoto Genryusai's side for more than 2,000 years, so he naturally knows the situation of this rambunctious family. Even during these 2,000 years, he also worked with some members of the Shiba clan. But it is precisely because of this that he is more aware of the importance of this family, which is a family that is responsible for top-secret missions. However, the blood of the current Shiba family is withered. It is said that there are only 2 members of the immediate family left. If they accidentally disappear, no one will be able to carry out the top-secret mission. Therefore, it is learned that the Shiba clan was also involved in the invasion. Chojiro Sasaki and Yamamoto Uenyuzai both felt headaches, and there are only 2 people left in this family who cannot move yet. Quite a while. Yamamoto Motoyanagi sighed helplessly. Sasaki, go and tell Shiba the current patriarch yourself. Because of her pyrotechnic skills, Seraiti was invaded, and she was banned from taking private work in the pyrotechnic festival in Rukongai for 1 year. Chojiro Sasaki was silent. Will the punishment be a little harsher? With the current economic strength of the Shiba clan, what if they are starved to death? Chapter 67. Early Execution, Aizen's Death Message. 11th Team. Unleash Reiatsu at full power by Zaraki Kenpachi. As a result, the 11th team was almost wiped out, and only a few officers could continue to fight. But, after learning that Natsuki won Zaraki Kenpachi, the attitude of the 11th team Shinigami changed suddenly. From the original excitement of wanting to arrest the intruder, it has changed into respect for the strong. The weak respect the strong. This is an unchanging rule for thousands of years. What's more, here is the 11th team with simple folk customs, and they have stronger respect for the strong. Therefore, after defeating Zaraki Kenpachi, not only did Natsuki not take Longui to escape in a hurry, but stayed in the 11th team to scout for information. Reception room. Natsuki and Zaraki Kenpachi sat face to face. The former's breath was stable and he was almost uninjured, but the latter was covered in bandages and looked at the former with a murderous look. After Arisawa Tatsuki wakes up, he stared blankly at what was happening before his eyes. My lord, please. Shinigami, who was serving at the side, saw Arisawa Tatsuki wake up, and immediately brought a plate of water to wash his face and wake up. Natsuki, this is. Longui washed his face in a daze, and then looked at Natsuki in a daze. Longui, you're awake. Let me introduce you. This is Zaraki Kenpachi, the captain of Team 11. It roughly described what happened after the 2 fell from midair. Combat Team Captain. When I heard the tall and fierce man in front of me, it turned out to be the captain of the Seraiti combat team. Longui couldn't help but feel worried for Natsuki. Zaraki Kenpachi's appearance is already fierce, coupled with the gimmick of the captain of the combat team, it makes people nervous when they hear it. But later heard, after Natsuki won this battle team captain, Longui subconsciously let out a long breath, feeling much more relaxed. TCH, I will pay you back for that revenge sooner or later, Natsuki. Zaraki Kenpachi curled his lips in displeasure. But in battle, I really lost to Natsuki. Although unhappy, I also accepted the result in my heart. He still doesn't even have the courage to admit defeat in a battle. Even after the battle, in response to inquiries from the first team, it even directly concealed the existence of the 2, which is also the reason why the 2 can stay in the 11th team. And at this moment, knowing that the 2 of them are not in danger for the time being, Arisawa Tatsuki thought of his best friend again, and asked with concern. By the way, how are Orihime and the others doing, any news? But this time without Natsuki answering. A pink-haired little loli jumped out from behind Zaraki Kenpachi, and said with a smile. JV. The corner of Arisawa Tatsuki's mouth twitched. I don't understand how my childhood nickname was called out. But seeing that the little loli Shinigami didn't seem to be threatening, she nodded in confirmation and said, well, I want to know. Aside, Natsuki saw that the two got along well. He didn't care about Longui and Yakiryu's contact, looked at Kenpachi again, and asked. You just told me. Rukia's execution has been brought forward. Ah, I confirmed it with Foxface, what's the matter? After the battle, the two didn't become enemies or anything. Even because the fighting was too straightforward, the relationship between Zaraki Kenpachi and Natsuki quickly became acquainted, and they can be regarded as friends. For this, Natsuki directly stated his purpose. Enter Seraiti, just trying to save Rukia from being executed. Unexpectedly, when Natsuki said that he came to rescue Rukia, the news from Zaraki Kenpachi made his heart skip a beat. There was still a week before the execution. However, the execution time was suddenly changed yesterday afternoon, and it was brought forward to 3 days later. Zaraki Kenpachi didn't know the situation of Chushashu. Instead, he looked at the past seriously, and said in an expectant tone. Hey, after you agreed to save Rukia, fight me again with all your strength. This is one of the reasons why Zaraki Kenpachi befriends Natsuki. Unlike the other Shinigami in Seraiti, who looked disgusted at the idea of fighting him, Natsuki, on the contrary, agreed to it almost easily. Such a cheerful look. I really like Zaraki Kenpachi's straightforward personality. As everyone knows, Natsuki is also very fond of his straightforward and quick-witted personality in battle. Original. The attributes dropped by Longui and the others are already powerful enough. Unexpectedly, after fighting Zaraki Kenpachi, Natsuki knew what the joy of picking attributes is. Physical strength +1, strength +1, speed +1, strength +1. A fight down. Zaraki Kenpachi directly dropped nearly 10 attribute lights. Although they are all basic attributes, they can't hold back his huge strength. In one battle, Natsuki is not only not injured, but also a bit stronger. And at this moment, heard about Rukia's execution time change. Natsuki looked thoughtful and continued to ask Zaraki Kenpachi. Rukia's place of detention hasn't changed, has it? That kind of thing, how do I know, but I know those noble gentlemen will not easily change the original decision. Zaraki Kenpachi grinned. He was not interested in Rukia Kuchiki. If I didn't want to see the expression of the man in the 6th team, I wouldn't even inquire about this matter. But his words have already given the answer. Since the execution time has been brought forward, there is really no need to spend a lot of time changing the place of detention, this is enough. But just in case, Natsuki looked at Arisawa Tatsuki aside. Kenpachi, help me take care of Longui, I'm going out for a while. This sentence made Zaraki Kenpachi stunned for a moment. With a look of surprise on his face, he asked in a deep voice. You guy, don't you plan to go to prison now? Natsuki did not answer. The expression on his face is extremely determined. Yesterday at noon, I waited for the talents to arrive at Soul Society, and Rukia's execution time was brought forward. This is different from the scene in the plot, and it is obviously Aizen's method. Money is good since the plot has changed. Natsuki couldn't guarantee that development would continue as smoothly as the original. So, in order to avoid mistakes, he plans to rescue Rukia before Aizen's fake death. Just as he was about to leave, a Shinigami ran in and shouted. Boss is not good, news just came out that the captain of the 5th team was killed. The moment the sound fell, everyone in the room was stunned. Quote exclamation mark exclamation mark exclamation mark quote. Quote question mark question mark question mark question mark question mark question mark quote. That Aizen guy was killed. Zaraki Kenpachi stared at Natsuki and subconsciously asked, when did you do this? Natsuki, meow meow. Chapter 68. Oops, Natsuki pretending to be a Shinigami is going to be exposed. Dongda Holy Wall. A group of Shinigami rushed over upon hearing the sound. The death of the captain brought a huge shock to Seraiti. Impossible, Captain Aizen, how could Captain Aizen? When Zaraki Kenpachi and Natsuki arrived, Just in time, I saw a girl in a deadly costume kneeling on the ground, staring blankly at the corpse floating in the wind on the wall. Tick, tick, the body looked as if it had just died. Stapled to the wall by a handful of zanpakuto, blood dripped on the ground from time to time, splashing bloody flowers. However, in the eyes of Natsuki next to Zaraki Kenpachi, this is an extremely strange corpse, but wearing the same glasses as Aizen, and wearing the captain of the 5th squad, Haori. But in the eyes of everyone influenced by Kyoka Suigetsu, the corpse pinned to the wall by his own Zanpakuto is Aizen Sosuke, captain of the 5th team. It's so lively here, a playful voice came from behind. Natsuki and all the Shinigami around turned around subconsciously. I saw a man with short light purple hair, dressed in Captain Haori, and a smiling man walking from a distance. He looked at the corpse pinned to the wall. Not only is there no surprise, but there is a feeling of gloating. Ah, isn't this 460 the captain of Aizen? Why is it hanging on the wall? The moment the sound falls, all eyes on the scene turn to Ichimaru Jin. Without him, Ichimaru Jin's performance was too calm. There is a feeling as if he has been aware of it for a long time. Of course, this gloating tone is also the reason for everyone's suspicion. I see, it's you. Hinamori Momo stared fixedly at Ichimaru Jin. But the advice Captain Aizen gave her during the day came to mind. Recently, when performing missions, remember to be careful of the 3rd team, and if you notice something is wrong, report to me as soon as possible. At first, listen to Captain Aizen's inexplicable advice. Hinamori Momo still doesn't understand, but he doesn't want Captain Aizen, who was advising him during the day, to die quietly at night. At the same time, on collocation Ichimaru Jin, the gloating expression when he saw Captain Aizen's body just now, instantly ignited the anger in Hinamori Momo's heart, thinking that the man in front of him was the murderer of Captain Aizen. You killed Captain Aizen, absolutely unforgivable. Hinamori Momo pulled out Zanpakuto from his waist and rushed towards Ichimaru Jin. This sudden scene made the unsuspecting heavy Shinigami unable to react, they could only watch Hinamori Momo rushing forward. Wait, Waicom. Matsumoto Rangaku in the crowd trying to stop it all. It's a pity that Hinamori Momo ignored it, she only has Ichimaru Jin in her eyes now. Ding! Zanpakuto was blocked. The vice captain of Division 3, Kira Izuru stands in front of Ichimaru Jin. Kira, why? Hinamori Momo glared at his friend, not understanding why he stood in front of her. But Kira Izuru said coldly, I am the vice captain of the 3rd team, and I will never let anyone easily swing a knife at my captain. At the same time, Natsuki standing next to Zaraki Kenpachi. But he looked at Kira Izuru curiously. With his current strength, he could sense whether the other party had killing intent. And according to his perception, there is no killing intent on Kira Izuru's body. Seems to be just trying to stop Hinamori Momo from making mistakes. Pity. Hinamori Momo, who is already angry. Unaware of his friend's kindness towards him, he directly liberated Zanpakuto, Bloom, Fame. The Zanpakuto in the hands of Hinamori Momo changes. See, even if Kira Izuru doesn't want to play hard. But in desperation, he also had to free his own Zanpakuto, lift up, Wabisuke. Both parties completed the liberation of Zanpakuto. CJAC. The atmosphere on the field suddenly became tense, but at the moment when the two were about to fight, a white figure Shunpo is coming. Stop. Hitsugaya Toshiro stood between the two of them. Seeing that the fight was stopped, Zaraki Kenpachi spit aside boredly, then looked at Natsuki, and reminded in a low voice. Hey, I've finished watching the excitement, it's time to go. I know, but I'm not in a hurry. What are you, Captain Shinigami, worried about? Could it be that you're afraid? Listening to the urging of Zaraki Kenpachi, Natsuki was not in a hurry at all, and even had the heart to tease the other party. To know, he has the power of Shinigami and is dressed in a deadly costume. As long as they don't die, these Shinigami who haven't seen his appearance, it is impossible to know that he is an intruder. You are so brave. Zaraki Kenpachi can't help skimming Natsuki's shoulder. At this time, the right arm of Natsuki's deadly costume is hung with the Sawgrass team badge of the 11th team. To be frank, even Zaraki Kenpachi's insolent character It never occurred to them that Natsuki, the intruder, was so bold as to pretend to be a member of the 11th Squad to watch Aizen's death scene. But what he didn't expect was that, in order to fight Natsuki one more time, unexpectedly, he spoke quickly and agreed to such a request that sounded absurd. Zaraki Kenpachi, who knows that something is wrong, just wants to take Natsuki and escape quickly, so as not to be noticed by the other captains present. But Zaraki Kenpachi forgot. His tall body has always attracted people's attention. The two bowed their heads and whispered, and immediately attracted Toshiro's attention, walked towards them and asked curiously. Captain Zaraki, are you okay with your injury? Do you need to go to the 4th team to deal with it? Toshiro wanted to ask for information about the invaders. But seeing the traces of bandages on Zaraki Kenpachi's body, I still feel that it is better to care about the other party's injuries. No problem, everything has been taken care of. Suddenly stopped by Toshiro, Zaraki Kenpachi felt a little uncomfortable, but responded with a grin. The other party said so. Toshiro will not continue to ask questions. But when he was about to inquire about the intruder's news, he saw a tree beside him, frowned slightly, and asked in thought. Who is this? I don't think I've seen it before. Moment. Zaraki Kenpachi's heart beats faster. Oops, Natsuki is pretending to be a team member, I'm afraid it will be exposed. Chapter 69, If you don't believe me, fight until you believe me. Who is this? Hitsugaya Toshiro looked at Natsuki and asked. Of course, even though it was a question, his eyes were on Zaraki Kenpachi who was on the sidelines. This is. Zaraki Kenpachi didn't know how to answer. Unexpectedly, Natsuki took the initiative to walk up to Toshiro and introduced himself. Captain Hitsugaya, accompanying medical staff in the next 11th Squad. Captain Zaraki's injury is too serious, Vice Captain Yachinliu ordered me to stand by Captain Zaraki at any time. The accompanying team doctor. Not only Hitsugaya Toshiro heard. Several vice captains on the side also heard the introduction. Certainly. Natsuki dares to introduce himself like this. Purely seeing the absence of Abarai Renji and Byakuya Kuchiki. The other Shinigami don't know themselves, so Natsuki says whatever he wants, as long as it's not too outrageous, basically no one will doubt it. Ichimaru Jin may know something. But when Hinamori Momo and Kira Izuru got into a fight, he turned and left. And at this moment, after listening to Natsuki's self-introduction, Toshiro subconsciously looked at Zaraki Kenpachi. Especially looking at the other party's heart, abdomen, shoulders and other bandages that are still oozing blood, he couldn't help but nodded in approval. Indeed, Captain Zaraki's injury can't be ignored. So far, Natsuki's identity is perfect. Toshiro ignored Natsuki and started asking Zaraki Kenpachi for news of the invaders. Pity. Zaraki Kenpachi doesn't like him at all. Huh. Intruder, if you want to know so much, go find it yourself. After saying a word, he turned around and left. Seeing this, Natsuki hurriedly followed, as if he was really accompanying the team doctor. Captain Hitsugaya. Several deputy teams stepped forward to appease. Toshiro waved his hand to show that he didn't care. Then he looked at the two people who were subdued, frowned, but still ordered to the deputy team. Take them down and reflect on yourself. After leaving Dongda Shungbi, Zaraki Kenpachi glanced at the tree beside him. You're pretending to be pretty, even that genius kid was fooled too close by you. Small meaning, but compared to this, I'm more curious about that side. Having tricked Toshiro, Natsuki felt nothing to be proud of. Instead, he looked into the distance and faced the night. Although it was blurry, he could still see unique buildings. Zaraki Kenpachi looked over, seeing the faint outline of the penance palace. A sinister smile rose from the corner of his mouth, and he asked, do you really want to save Rukia directly? Yes, I'm going to save her. Natsuki didn't deny it. Really? Zaraki Kenpachi stopped suddenly. His demeanor became serious, and he stared at Natsuki's face carefully, as if intending to keep his appearance in his mind. Then he walked forward on his own. After walking for a long time, a faint voice came from a distance. Hey, Natsuki, don't die there, remember, you still sent me 2 battles. Sound falls. Natsuki smiled slightly. Who said Zaraki Kenpachi is crazy like a beast, isn't he really smart? Don't worry, I won't die here easily, especially before seeing the real excitement. Sound falls. Natsuki accelerated towards the penance palace. The scene of Aizen's suspended animation has been brought forward, which means that Saraite's defense force will be more stringent. If you don't take this opportunity, if you want to rescue Rukia directly, I'm afraid it will not be that simple. Therefore, Natsuki rushed forward at an extremely fast speed, and a faint blue afterimage flashed across the night sky. However, while remaining swift, the movement is very light. The afterimage has passed countless Shinigami, but no one can find his trace. It's getting closer, it's getting closer. The distance to the Palace of Confessions is getting closer and closer. With Natsuki advancing at full speed, in just a few minutes, he arrived in front of the Penance Palace. Just cross that drawbridge. You can come to Rukia and rescue her. But, at this time, Natsuki, who was running all the way, seemed to have noticed something, gradually stopped, looked forward and sighed softly. I didn't expect that it was you who stood in front of me. Sound falls. A figure slowly walked out from the other end of the suspension bridge. The white Captain Howry, the star leading pliers symbolizing nobility, and the neck coin named, Silver and White Wind Flower Yarn. Ask for flowers. Guti 13, Captain of Division 6 Byakuya Kuchiki. Is this how you saved Rukia? If that's the only way, then let me end your steps. Looking at Natsuki, Byakuya Kuchiki's voice is extraordinarily cold. In vain he thought that Natsuki had some good solution, but in the end it was just as he said, jail robbery. No way. Natsuki looked at Byakuya Kuchiki and sighed softly. Things have changed, I can't just follow the original plan foolishly, can I? Things change. Byakuya Kuchiki stares at Natsuki. But the news I just received came to my mind, the captain of the 5th Division Aizen Sosuke died. 0. At the same time, listening to this rhetorical question, Yuan Shu nodded. That's right, you died as a captain, and it happened to be, died, on the day we entered Saraite. Anyone would mistakenly think that we did it. Talk half. Natsuki paused suddenly. Pointing to Byakuya Kuchiki, he said with a faint smile. For example, don't you also think so? I killed that Aizen captain. Byakuya Kuchiki's expression remained the same. Even though his thoughts were guessed by Natsuki, the guess in his mind was that Natsuki killed Aizen Sosuke. Hee. Watching Byakuya Kuchiki's performance, Natsuki knew that he was right. The flash of killing intent when the other party saw him was not like it was caused by a prison robbery. Then, Natsuki walked forward slowly again. While walking, he touched his waist and said indifferently. You think so? I'm afraid I can't easily change your mind, so. Byakuya Kuchiki stared at Natsuki. The next moment, Natsuki suddenly drew his sword out of its sheath, pointed it at Byakuya Kuchiki, grinned and said with a smile. Since you don't believe me, then let me fight until you believe it. Sound falls. The violent Reiatsu burst out in an instant, and went towards Byakuya Kuchiki's merciless oppression. Chapter 70. The prologue is over, and it's time for battle. Boom. Swelling fury Reiatsu. In that instant, it exploded from Natsuki's body, pressing down on Byakuya Kuchiki mercilessly. The faint blue Reiatsu ruthlessly overwhelmed the sky of the Penance Palace. Crushing, this Reiatsu crushes everything it encounters along the way, suspension bridges, stone slabs, hemp ropes, iron bodies. Wherever you go, all crushed into the most primitive spiritual form. At this moment, Byakuya Kuchiki's eyes flashed with shocking luster. Are you crazy? What the hell is this guy Natsuki doing? Unleashing such a massive Reiatsu was almost a devastating blow to the Penance Palace. UB************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************** left. Looking at the dark blue Reiatsu pressing towards him, Yakuya Kuchiki couldn't care less about 373, violating the first level prohibited items regulations. Pull out the waist Zanpakuto with one hand. With the blade facing upwards, he whispered, "Scatter it, Senbon Sakura." And at this moment, Reiatsu pressing here, turned into a blue wave and devoured Yakuya Kuchiki. But in the next instant, the faint blue wave blasted a gap. Countless blades like sakura flowers surround Yakuya Kuchiki, resisting Reiatsu's scour. At the same time, these sakura flower blades keep spreading. Try to intercept all the coming blue waves to avoid causing more damage. However, scattered blades. Facing this condensed blue wave, it's like a mantis holding a cart, useless. Boom! The monstrous bang exploded completely. The entire confession palace trembled with that loud noise. Rukia, who was imprisoned in one of the palaces, opened her eyes incredulously, and hurried to the air leak to observe the situation outside. Can't go wrong. Just felt Natsuki Reiatsu. Damn it, why did you come to save me? Go back quickly, Yuenshu. Feeling the familiar Reiatsu in the distance. Rukia was excited at first, and Natsuki didn't forget herself, but after the excitement, there was a touch of fear. Natsuki is a good captain. But here is Saraiti, with 13 divisions, commanding countless Shinigami regular troops. You alone. How can it compare to the thousands of troops of Saraiti? And the next moment, feeling another burst of familiar Reiatsu, Rukia opened her small mouth slightly again, a little absent-minded. Byakuya. Big brother. Rukia never expected. It turned out that the one who fought Natsuki was his elder brother Byakuya Kuchiki. At the same time, Reiatsu outburst ended, Natsuki exhaled foul breath. At this moment, after the impact of Reiatsu, the surrounding architects were devastated. The original suspension bridge under the two people's feet has been broken and disfigured long ago, making it impossible to distinguish its original shape. And this, but just burst out of Reiatsu. Looking at the damage caused by his own Reiatsu explosion, Natsuki had a hearty smile on his face. This trick from Zaraki Kenpachi really works. After his strength reached the captain level, he always felt that his Reiatsu had no place to squander, which was unthinkable. Today, he saw the scene where Zaraki Kenpachi exploded Reiatsu, and he was inspired. This time directly release Reiatsu. Using this as an attack method with the help of a powerful impact force, it is really not small. Thinking, Natsuki looked back at Byakuya Kuchiki. Especially when the other party wanted to protect the appearance of the confession palace, Natsuki made Natsuki think he was some kind of villain. The boring prologue is over. Next, it's time for me to fight with you, uncle. Facing the staring eyes of the other party, Natsuki tapped Shunpo with his feet, and rushed forward quickly. Standing in the distance Byakuya Kuchiki of Shikai. Listening to Natsuki's straightforward battle declaration, his face was extremely calm, and he said coldly. Fighting. But Reiatsu has reached the captain level, so it's so shameless. I have no choice but to show you what a real Shinigami is before you continue to blindly indulge in your own strength. The sound fell instantly. Byakuya Kuchiki made a false grip with one hand, Senbon Sakura reappeared in his hand, and then slowly took a few steps forward. Watching this scene, Natsuki's eyes flashed suddenly. Instead of slowing down, it speeds up Shunpo's speed. Rub. Lightly tap the foot, and the figure disappears from the spot in an instant. Next moment, his figure appeared in front of Byakuya Kuchiki. Looking at the uncle in front of him, he raised a smile on the corner of his mouth, and said hello, before you meet the real Shinigami, I will give you a trick Juingsha. Sound falls. Zanpakuto slashed away without hesitation. Because the chopping speed was too fast, an afterimage of the same movement appeared behind him. Juiying slash, originally developed to be used with Yuli, is specially used for medium and long distance strikes, named after the afterimage. Absolute shadow slash. It's just a bluff. Seeing the slash coming towards him clearly, Byakuya Kuchiki didn't panic at all, and even stretched out his left hand indifferently, trying to grab the slashing blade. But, the moment his hand was about to catch Zanpakuto. But seeing the corners of Natsuki's mouth curled up, and at the same time, an inexplicable tingling sensation gathered in his hands, which made him subconsciously finish. ZZ. Zanpakuto flashed an arc, crescent moon and Tianchong zero distance change. The skills used in the battle with Byakuya Kuchiki in the present world are reproduced. The arc on the Zanshin sword is not a real arc, but the product formed by the real tree gathering high concentration Reiatsu on the tip of the knife. Action single 2.0. But it's simple and crude, it only has the effect of increasing penetration. If Byakuya Kuchiki really grabbed the tip of the knife just now, this high concentration of Reiatsu could penetrate his left hand in an instant. However, Byakuya Kuchiki stopped, but it doesn't mean Natsuki will stop attacking. Boom! The slashing movement continued, and the Ling Lai knife glow raged. With such a distance, Byakuya Kuchiki couldn't dodge at all, and a sharp pain hit. Next moment, Byakuya Kuchiki's figure Shunpo is a few meters behind. His eyes were fixed on Natsuki, and although he didn't say a word, he subconsciously pressed his left arm with one hand. I saw. Tick tick tick. The blood dripped slowly from the left arm, the color was eye-catching. Check out our playlist for more amazing novels. Chapter 71. Natsuki's Solution Like Rain Yuli Heaven and Earth Tribulation. Tick, tick. Blood slowly dripped from the hanging left arm. Byakuya Kuchiki's eyes were staring at Natsuki's Zanpakuto, and the electric arc made him feel palpitations. Is this your Zanpakuto ability? Ignoring the current identities of the two, Byakuya Kuchiki asked in a flat voice. Zanpakuto ability. No, just squeeze Reiatsu on the tip of the knife. Natsuki put on a playful smile. Certainly. Don't look at the simplicity of this. If you don't have the skills in hand, just compress Reiatsu on Zanpakuto, although it can also increase the attack power, but the effect is definitely not as exaggerated as the real tree. At the same time, Byakuya Kuchiki is well aware of this. Ignoring the injury on his left arm, he looked at Natsuki again, his tone remained calm. But this time, mixed with self-confidence. That's right, but it's never possible to beat me with this skill. The moment the sound fell, hold Senbon Sakura tightly with your right hand, then flip your wrist, with the tip of the knife pointing down, let go, Senbon Sakura slowly sinks into the ripples on the ground and disappears. Quote question mark. Senbon Sakura Kajiyoshi. Unlike some captains. In order to avoid consumption of Reiatsu, try not to use swastika solution. Byakuya Kuchiki is different. He knows that the gap between himself and Natsuki is not too big. If he only uses Shikai, it is tantamount to creating opportunities for the opponent. So, in order to end the battle as soon as possible, at this moment, he used his solution without hesitation. I saw the left and right sides of Byakuya Kuchiki slowly growing huge blades. Judging from the appearance, it was the disappeared Senbon Sakura. Same as 29:00. All huge blades start from the tip. All turned into countless blade fragments, falling behind Byakuya Kuchiki like sakura flowers scattered. If we assume, on the degree of splendor in the interpretation, Senbon Sakura Kajiyoshi is undoubtedly the number one. Have you used the swastika solution so quickly? You're really stupid. Seeing this scene, for a moment, the corner of Natsuki's mouth twitched slightly. He didn't expect that Byakuya Kuchiki would be so cautious, and he opened up directly after being slashed by himself. And also, are you serious about skimming behind you? Perhaps it was the experience of being attacked by Natsuki with Zanpakuto Shikai in the present world. When Byakuya Kuchiki used the swastika solution, he subconsciously glanced behind him, and looked at Natsuki again when he saw nothing unusual. See the slightly twitching appearance of the other party's mouth. I mistakenly thought it was the first time I saw the swastika and was shocked, so I kindly explained. There are two kinds of liberation of Zanpakuto. Number 1. The sealed state lent by Shinoling's Huan to students. The owner writes his own spirit and beliefs, thus becoming the only Zanpakuto, which is the first stage, Shikai. Asterisk 2. After a period of practice, the owner is one with his own Zanpakuto mind, and the soul of the Zanpakuto knife is manifested, making it obedient to the owner and gaining more powerful power. That is the second stage, swastika solution. Speaking of which, Byakuya Kuchiki's voice returned to its previous flatness. And the state I'm using now is Zanpakuto's second liberation swastika solution. In fact, he still has nothing to say. Part of the Zanpakuto swastika will change the attire of the clothes and give the Shinigami 5 to 10 times the Reiatsu of the Shikai state. And his swastika Senbon Sakura Kajiyoshi. Due to the need to control hundreds of millions of blades, its spiritual power has increased by a maximum of 10 times. So, Byakuya Kuchiki's eyes moved slightly. Facing a swastika 10 times stronger than Shikai. Natsuki, what did you use to win me, and what did you use to win me? Thinking of this, Byakuya Kuchiki's eyes flickered, looked at the tree in the distance, raised his right hand lightly, and made a gesture of waving. Wow! The moment the action falls. Countless sakura flowers fluttered behind themselves, making a rustling sound, and rushed towards Natsuki. Boundless sakura flowers. Like a turbulent pink ocean, overwhelming attack. At the same time, Rukia in the penitentiary. Now you don't need to perceive Reiatsu, you can see countless sakura flowers emerging out of thin air in the distant battlefield. This is Shikai. But the next moment, she seemed to realize something again. His eyes widened, and he looked at the scenery outside the window in disbelief. The raging ocean of sakura flowers rushes to one side, as if it wants to swallow everything in the world. No, Big Brother doesn't have so many Shikai. Could this be Byakuya Big Brother's solution? As Byakuya Kuchiki's stepsister, Rukia has seen him for the first time in decades. But never thought of it. It will be in this situation that you will see a solution. At this moment, Rukia couldn't help but feel a bit sad. That man who has never looked me in the eye, for the dignity of the Kuchiki family, even if he does not hesitate to use swastika, he will stop Natsuki and prevent him from saving me. Thinking of this, Rukia looked at the battlefield in the distance. While feeling sad in my heart, I was also worried about the man who broke into Soul Society for himself. Natsuki, you, don't let anything happen. And at this moment, the center of the battlefield in front of the Palace of Confessions. Natsuki stood in place, looking at the pink ocean rushing towards him, feeling the feeling of his skin being cut by a blade. Suddenly, the corner of the mouth raised a wild smile. Byakuya Kuchiki, no, my dear uncle. I didn't know how to complete the swastika solution before, but I never thought about it. After your explanation, I realized that the swastika solution is such a simple thing. This moment, control Senbon Sakura's Byakuya Kuchiki from a distance. Hearing Natsuki's words, I don't know why my heart suddenly trembled, and a thought that made him tremble suddenly popped up in my mind. At the same time, Natsuki about to be swallowed by the pink ocean. But he slowly raised the knife, pointed his finger in the air, and slowly spit out a few words. Swastika. Like rain and Yuli, heaven and earth tribulation. Boom. In an instant, the faint blue Reiatsu burst out instantly. It continued to spread toward the sky and the ground, and in the blink of an eye, both of them were dyed a faint blue color. And at this moment, watching this scene, Byakuya Kuchiki was completely dumbfounded. Quote exclamation mark 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 quote. No, it's impossible, how could you grasp the solution in an instant? Well known, Shinigami's Shikai is easy to master, as long as it is Shinigami, even if it takes time to grind, it can master its own Shikai. But the solution is different. Even the gifted Shinigami can take decades to master. 18. Seeing Natsuki in the distance. The depths of Byakuya Kuchiki's pupils are filled with shock. How long did it take him? 1 minute, 30 seconds, or 10 seconds? Just by hearing one's own interpretation of the swastika, one has mastered the swastika, a talent unheard of before. However, no matter how shocking Byakuya Kuchiki is, Natsuki in the distance has really completed understanding. The dazzling light dissipated, and Natsuki's appearance at this time was also revealed in Byakuya Kuchiki's eyes. Dead bully pretends to disappear. It was replaced by the same blue and white chivalrous suit worn by Yuli. Natsuki, who is tall and tall, wears the same blue and white chivalrous suit, showing a somewhat heroic and chic posture. The appearance of the Zanpakuto in the hand has not changed. But a thin layer of faint blue electric light crackles from time to time from the knife, lighting up the dark surroundings. Certainly, Yuri's phantom appeared beside Natsuki. Zanpakuto in her hand, together with a layer of faint blue electric glow. At the same time, the rushing pink ocean arrived in front of him. Looking at the pink ocean that is approaching in front of him, Natsuki chuckled softly. Come with me and turn this world upside down, Yuli. Yes, my lord Natsuki. Yuri leaned slightly. Immediately. Draw the knife, cut it out, draw it back. 680. In an instant, the above 3 actions are completed. Boom. The world is changing color at this moment. This is not a metaphor, but a scene that actually happened. With a single slash, the Yulin Daomang is invincible, and all the spirits in the sky and the earth are forcibly attracted towards the Yulin Daomang. Inflated. The faint blue sword light is rapidly expanding. In just a few breaths, the sword glow expanded dozens of times in size. The moment the rushing pink ocean collided with it, it was forcefully pushed back to the original direction. The lingering momentum is irresistible. This moment. Looking at the sea of Senbon Sakura being pushed back. Natsuki, don't think that you can beat me by mastering the solution. Byakuya Kuchiki reached out and took control himself, trying to repress the Senbon Sakura ocean against Natsuki. But, the moment you take control with your own hands, Byakuya Kuchiki felt an unparalleled pressure. No matter how he manipulated Senbon Sakura, he couldn't resist the oncoming faint blue blade light, and his expression froze for a moment. At the same time, Senbon Sakura Ocean is in retreat. Even that faint blue sword light has descended in front of me. Facing the gigantic sword light that almost occupied the entire field of vision, Byakuya Kuchiki subconsciously manipulated Senbon Sakura. Gather hundreds of millions of blades together. Form a shield and stand in front of yourself. However, an unbelievable scene happened. The moment the shield and the sword light touched each other, it cracked from the middle, and it didn't last for a while. Then, Byakuya Kuchiki confronts Dao Man unsuspectingly. The faint blue light magnified in the pupils, and the rapid heartbeat sounded like the death bell ringing at this moment. Boom. Chapter 72. You comprehended on the spot, just to kill me. Boom. Huge dark blue sword light. Slashed far from the Palace of Penitence in an instant. While cutting it off, it kept plundering the spirits of the sky and the earth. While cutting off everything on the way, it continues to expand, with the stance of splitting the entire Seraiti in two. No one can stop it for a while. This scene. Not to mention Rukia, who was locked up in the Penance Palace. The Shinigami of the entire Seraiti could see the huge blue light of the sword, and they were all stunned. Exclamation mark, exclamation mark, exclamation mark, exclamation mark, exclamation mark, exclamation mark. What's the situation? Where did this blade glow come from? Also, why is this sword glow so big? Why no one came to stop it? At this time, one doubt after another, on the mind of all Shinigami who keep on going. Especially those Shinigami who are low in strength but stand in the way of Daomang's advance, they are almost scared to death. Quote exclamation mark, exclamation mark, exclamation mark, exclamation mark, exclamation mark, exclamation mark, quote. Run, everyone, run. Forget about the team building, everyone leaves the team building immediately, this is an order. The team building of a certain team. Just in the middle of the Daomang's advancing route. The Shinigami in the team building panicked and ran out of the team building, fleeing to the distance for refuge. A team. Yamamoto Yuanryasai was standing by the fence on the roof. The eyes that were originally closed to restrain their anger when they learned of Aizen's death, slowly opened as if they had sensed something. Caught the eye. But it is a huge sword light that is still expanding. Its size, according to visual judgment, is almost 3 stories high, and it can't help but attract people's attention. How dare these travelers, looking at the buildings destroyed by the huge sword light along the way. The anger in Yamamoto Yuanyazai's eyes could not be suppressed at all. Instead of continuing to restrain himself, he jumped directly from the tall building instead. Boom. The moment it landed, a pothole appeared on the ground. But the figure of Yamamoto Genryuzai, the moment he landed, he rushed towards the sword light, leaving afterimages behind him because of his high speed. 3rd Division. Ichimaru Jin, who just came back from Todai Sebi. Before he had time to enter the captain's room, he suddenly noticed a huge burst of Reiatsu. Based on his experience, it is not difficult to judge that this is Shinigami's solution. Only, this extremely strange Reiatsu let him forget for a while, when this kind of character appeared in Seraiti. The important thing is, Ichimaru Jin looked at Aizen, who appeared beside him at some point, and joked. Ouch. Looks like Captain Aizen's plan this time. It seems that there are some troubles, do you need me to go over and find out? Wen Yan, Aizen, who appeared from beside Ichimaru Jin. There was still that gentle smile on the corner of his mouth, but what he said was completely opposite to it. Trouble. What it is. When I decided to make a move, the ending was already predetermined. The so-called troubles are just the scenery along the way. Talking room. Confidence shines in those brown eyes. All fear comes from lack of strength. Unfortunately, his strength is enough to make him eliminate any fear. And at this time, After the faint blue sword light appeared, all squad leaders are aware of its existence. What is this? Sui Feng stared blankly at the blue sword light. Looks like there's another slasher, Hana Retsu said with a smile. It's so troublesome, I can't be lazy for a while. Kyoraku Shunsui yawned and lost in the direction of the penance palace. This breath, could it be that Captain Kuchiki is fighting the enemy? Big Guzi sensed Byakuya Kuchiki's Reiatsu and looked thoughtfully. I haven't experienced Reiatsu before, I hope it won't affect Master Aizen's plan. Tusen Kanami was guarding the 9th team, thinking silently in his heart. That direction is the penance palace. It seems that the enemy's target is really Rukia. Hitsugaya Toshiro lifted the knife, got up and ran towards the penance palace. As for the remaining 2 captains, Jashiro Yukitaki retired from illness and is recuperating at home. Kuritsuchi Mayuri, fighting an unexpected enemy. Why? According to the dose, you should have fallen down. But now I can still get up and fight again and again. Seeing the orange-headed boy struggling to get up from the ground in the distance, Kuritsuchi Mayuri tilted his head in doubt with a bruised nose and a swollen face. Not far away, a girl with long brown hair fell to the ground. Although there were no wounds on the body, his eyes looked dull and lifeless. Hearing Kuritsuchi Mayuri's doubts, Kurosaki Ichigo struggled to get up from the ground again, gasped and looked at the other party, intermittently said. B************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************ D, hand over the antidote. Inoue Orihime's ability is good, whether it is offensive, defensive, or defensive. But there is a weakness. She needs to control the elves herself to complete the use of corresponding abilities. Upon realizing this, Kuretsuchi Mayuri took advantage of his surprise and used a nerve-numbing toxin on Orihime. Never thought. But it led to the explosion of Kurosaki Ichigo. No matter how serious the injury was, no matter how many times he was knocked down to the ground, or even poisoned with the same nerve-paralyzing poison, he could finally get back up. At this very moment, Kurosaki Ichigo's consciousness gradually blurred. But before he knew it, a figure appeared beside him and said, "Do you want to fight? Do you want to win? Do you want to save that girl? Wave me, Ichigo." Kurosaki Ichigo opened his eyes suddenly. Clenching Zanpakuto tightly in your hand, a burst of Reiatsu burst out from your body again, and all of it was injected into Zangetsu. Crescent, Tianchong. When the blue slash came out, it actually split Kuretsuchi Mayuri's swastika gold-colored killing Jizo in two, and slashed towards Kuretsuchi Mayuri. How is it possible? Without defense. Kuretsuchi Mayuri was also split by Crescent Moon. The upper body was chopped down obliquely from the chest to the waist, and blood immediately spilled all over the ground. Watching this scene, Kurosaki Ichigo stumbled over. In the body divided into two sections, a green potion bottle was touched, which was the antidote that Kuretsuchi Mayuri took out when he taunted him earlier. With antidote, Kurosaki Ichigo rejoined Inoue Orihime. He fed the antidote into his mouth, and seeing her gradually recovering, she staggered and fell to the ground. "Kurosaki-san." A familiar voice sounded next to his ears, and Ichigo closed his eyes in peace. It's just that the two of them didn't notice that Kuretsuchi Mayuri, who was chopped into two sections just now, disappeared from the same place and went to nowhere. It's so powerful. Looking at the faint blue sword glow that is gradually going away. A look of surprise appeared on Natsuki's face. He didn't expect that swastika's improvement in strength was so exaggerated. Untie. Yuli can control the battle of spirits between heaven and earth. This ability is similar to Kenpachi, but not exactly the same. The similarity is that they can control spirits, but the difference is that the control of, like rain and glass, is only a passive skill. Its comprehension ability. It can be regarded as Shikai's secondary enhancement. When still as Shikai, summon the Sword Soul Phantom to assist Natsuki to fight. But during this period, the Reiatsu of the two will be superimposed and shared with each other, and they will bear the damage that Natsuki received when he undid it. This ability is somewhat monotonous. It can even be said to be a bit too simple. But for Natsuki, who uses chopping as his main attack method, it is very practical. It can be said, after entering the solution state. Then you can fight with the enemy unscrupulously, don't worry about the lack of Reiatsu, and don't have to worry about the problem of injury. Asterisk call. Natsuki let out a breath slowly. Refocusing on the battle ahead. Looking into the distance, I saw Karakura Kuchiki kneeling on one knee, with a bloodstain on his chest. In such a state of embarrassment. This is the first time I've seen Natsuki since we met. But unlike before, the captain feather on his body has disappeared. Apparently, the moment the blade slashed at him, Karakura reacted and at the expense of Haori, cast Kong-chan, barely dodging the attack. Pity. Take the current pose of Karakura Kuchiki. Not to mention continuing to fight Qian Nuohao, he couldn't even stand up. I'm afraid I can't stop myself now, save Rukia from the Sin Palace, right? Thinking like this, looking at the elder brother who was kneeling on one knee, Natsuki joked. You doubted me earlier. So now, do you still think that I killed Aizen Sosuke? Quote exclamation mark exclamation mark exclamation mark quote. After this battle, Karakura Kuchiki did understand that Aizen's killer was someone else. After all, with the great momentum of Natsuki's shot, it is impossible to kill Aizen without a sound. B. He looked at Natsuki with a dull look. Are you TMD sick? Comprehended on the spot, just to slash me, and make me believe that you didn't kill Aizen. This tool. Karakura Kuchiki has some doubts about life. It took Shinigami decades to master the solution, but Natsuki has mastered it for a mere reason, which is a bit too far-fetched. Quote exclamation mark exclamation mark exclamation mark quote. Hey, hey hey, feel the glazed eyes of Karakura Kuchiki. Natsuki smiled embarrassingly, and asked himself if he was too fierce to hit the uncle like this. Chapter 73. No way, old man Yamamoto ended up in person. Saraiti. The huge sword light is still moving forward. All the buildings that stood in front of them were split in half from the middle. At the same time, the Shinigami are running around in a panic telling each other. Quote exclamation mark exclamation mark exclamation mark quote. Run, run. The front is the fourth team, it must be stopped. It's too late, hurry up and send someone to the fourth team to notify them to evacuate immediately. But at this moment, the faint blue sword light is approaching. Everyone couldn't bear to turn their heads away, not daring to look at the next picture. And at this moment, don't dare to be rampant. But I saw a figure galloping towards this place. This figure is the captain of Shinigami 1st Division, Yamamoto Motonyanagi Shigekuni. At the same time, known as the strongest Shinigami in the millennium. He stared at the dark blue sword light with an angry expression on his face. The crutch in his hand disappeared without knowing when, and turned into a simple long knife, simple but elegant. It's getting closer, the two are getting closer. I saw the blue saber light in front of me chopping towards him. Ever since, Yamamoto Genyanagi Shigekuni draws his sword out. Staring fixedly at this dark blue sword light, the air mechanism is locked. And at this moment, the fleeing Shinigami, suddenly, he found a figure standing in front of the huge blade light 577. Hey, get out of the way. Someone didn't see it clearly, and was still subconsciously shouting loudly, reminding the other party to get out of the way. The sharp-eyed companions found out. The person who came here turned out to be the captain of the strongest Shinigami in the millennium. Shut up. Didn't you see, that's Captain Yamamoto. Ah, no way. I just wanted to remind him to get out of the way, and I didn't pay attention to who it was. In the whispers between the two, this huge sword light finally approached Yamamoto Genryuzai Shigekuni. Watching from a distance before, you can already feel the icy aura emanating from the sword light. But when I personally experience it positively, only then did I discover how huge the Reiatsu contained in this blade light is. But Yamamoto Genyanagi Shigekuni just waved the long knife in his hand and slashed forward. Even if it's a huge Reiatsu, I can't let you destroy Saraiti. The moment the sound falls, a sword full of scorching breath slashed out. Swinging the knife too fast, even left behind a phantom like a sea of flames, slashing towards the blue knife light. Ding! JFF. The moment when the slash and the sword light collide. The crisp sound of the clanging of iron tools resounded in the ears of everyone present. Quote exclamation mark exclamation mark exclamation mark quote. Captain, can you stop it? What are you talking about? It must be possible, that is the strongest Shinigami. Shinigami watching this scene, They couldn't help but start talking in whispers and unify their views. Gote 13th Division, Team Captain Yamamoto Motoyanagi Shigekuni will definitely be able to block this sword glow. While things develop, as many Shinigami guessed. At the moment when the slash and the sword light were in a stalemate, Yamamoto Motoyanagi Shigekuni gripped the long sword tightly in his hand, and slashed forward with all his strength. Ka ka ka. The broken sound rang in everyone's ears. Immediately, under the astonished gazes of the crowd, the faint blue blade was instantly covered with cracks and shattered. Admirably. The strongest Shinigami in the millennium. It turned out that he forcibly cut off the blade light just by relying on his own tactics. And at this moment, not too bad. Yamamoto Motoyanagi Shigekuni rolled his eyes at everyone. He listened to the advice just now, nodded in acquiescence. Immediately, looking towards the direction of the sword attack. Over there is the direction of the Palace of Repentance, which means that the enemy is in the Palace of Repentance. Yamamoto Motoyanagi Shigekuni couldn't help but let out a cold snort. Murderous intent flickered in his eyes. He tapped his feet lightly, bang. In an instant, the figure disappeared from the original place. Only a few Shinigami players were left, looking at where he stood with admiring expressions on their faces. Quote exclamation mark exclamation mark exclamation mark quote. As expected of your excellency, Captain. That's right, it actually cut off that sword glow with just one blow. Penance Palace. Natsuki glanced at Byakuya who was kneeling on one knee. Ignore it and go directly to the Penance Palace where Rukia is held. However, watch Natsuki ignore his own existence. Byakuya Kuchiki disregarded the pain in front of him, and with one hand was a Bakudo who chanted with abandon. Bakudo's 61 6-stick light prison. Moment. I didn't expect Byakuya to have more energy. Natsuki was accidentally hit by this sudden Bakudo. But he was not in a hurry, turned around and looked at Byakuya Kuchiki who was struggling to stand up, and asked calmly. Is that all you want to stop me from saving Rukia? The moment the sound fell, Byakuya Kuchiki was taken aback for a moment, before replying after a moment. Rukia violated the rules of the Soul Society. Since he violated the rules, he will have to pay the price. This moment, the lingering voice echoed in my ears. Hearing this, Natsuki walked up to him step by step and asked. You're Rukia's big brother. The closest relationship with her in Soul Society is you. When she was in trouble, not only did you not help, but you prevented others from helping. Do you really deserve what she calls you? Byakuya was silent. Natsuki continued to speak his mind. Perhaps you have some difficulties, and it may even be more important than Rukia's life and death, but have you really thought about it? Just let my sister be executed like this, and you won't feel sad in the future. This sentence hits the heart directly. Make Byakuya Kuchiki fall into silence. If you allow Rukia to be executed, will you regret it in the future? Rukia is Hima's younger sister. I promised Feijun to take good care of Rukia. But back then, in order to marry Feijun, he swore in front of his parents' grave that he would not do anything against the rules again. Now these two things come together. No matter which side he chooses, he has broken his promise. What should I do? Feijun. However, just when Byakuya was confused, a scorching breath swept over, as if summer is coming at this moment. Ignorant little thief, Hugh's nonsense. Moment. Both Natsuki and Byakuya Kuchiki are confused. Quote exclamation mark exclamation mark exclamation mark quote. This, hot breath. No way, old man Yamamoto ended up in person. Chapter 74, Master Sean, we seem to have been tricked. Boom. The violent and fiery breath of the soul. In an instant, they came galloping from a distance, pressing down on Natsuki forcefully. This moment, he seemed to see the King of Fire. Walking towards here slowly, the speed is not fast, but it is breathtaking. Certainly, the speed of coming is actually not slow. But the reason why it seems to be quite slow is because the speed is too fast, leaving an afterimage in place, giving people the illusion of. Looks like we've caught up. The figure of a bald old man appeared, in front of his eyes. Gote 13th Division, Team Captain Yamamoto Motoyanagi Shigekuni, descended here. Undoubtedly leaking momentum. It seems that there is a flame burning beside me out of thin air. This scene made Natsuki raise his eyebrows slightly, can the environment be affected without liberation? It seems that Old Man Yamamoto is called the strongest Shinigami in the millennium, and he is feared by Aizen Sosuke, not for nothing. This moment, he sensed the gap between himself and Old Man Yamamoto. Not only the difference in momentum, but also the difference in Reiatsu. When Natsuki solved the swastika earlier, he and Yuli Reiatsu were superimposed on each other. It was only comparable to the Old Man Yamamoto at this time. You know, the current Yamamoto Old Man has not liberated Zanpakuto, there is no Reiatsu increase. Although prepared, but Natsuki is still shocked by its strength. But, this is the accumulation of thousands of years of Yamamoto Genryusai. As for myself, I have only practiced for a few months, as long as I give some time, it is difficult to catch up with Old Man Yamamoto. Think of this. Natsuki grinned excitedly. Old Man Yamamoto, don't die before I catch up with you. At the same time, Yamamoto Motoyanagi Shigekuni is also observing Natsuki. Young, too young, compared with his thousands of years of life, the traveler in front of him is too young. Can't help but, he thought of the intelligence that the covert mobile team had detected. Natsuki, 16 years old, has shown spiritual talent since Rukia went to the world for a resident mission. From Rukia to the living station mission. Up to now, it's only been 3 months since I've done my best, that is to say, I've reached this level of practice in 3 months. Genius. That was the first word that came to his mind. Even in his thousands of years of life, the only one who can quickly increase his strength to such a level is Makoto. DJ. Such a genius chose to invade the Soul Society. And the enemy of the Soul Society is his enemy. Thinking of this, Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekuni slowly raised his right hand. But at this moment, suddenly there was another voice behind him. Shanyi, I'm just a traveler, I don't bother you to do it yourself, why don't you rest and leave it to me? A sudden sound was heard. Natsuki looked behind the Old Man Yamamoto, but saw a figure in a pink feathered jacket embroidered with patterns approaching at some point. Kiraku Shunsui. At the same time, in the Millennium Blood War chapter. After Yamamoto Motoyanagi Shigekuni died in battle, the second captain elected by Seraiti. Look at the person. Information popped into Natsuki's mind instantly. This made him feel a little bad, it was a little bit reluctant to face the Old Man Yamamoto alone, and now there are more Kiraku Shunsui, wouldn't it be important to be here? However, right now, Kiraku Shunsui looked at Natsuki, inadvertently, and said quietly. Shanyi, you have to make up your mind quickly, otherwise Captain Hitsugaya will rush over, and he will compete with me. Natsuki frowned. There was no hostility in Kiraku Shunsui's gaze. It can even be said that there is an untraceable kindness. Although he didn't know why he showed kindness to himself, the phrase, Captain Hitsugaya rushed over, made Natsuki understand his situation again. The two captains before and after are not talking here. Next, there was another captain of the 10th Division rushing here. If he continues to stay here, he is afraid that if Rukia cannot be rescued, he will die here too. Thinking like this, involuntarily looking past the crowd, looking at the Repentance Palace more than 10 meters away, he sighed softly in his heart. It's a pity, it seems that the idea of robbing the prison today may be a complete failure. While sighing, Natsuki suddenly coughed lightly. At the moment when the two people on the opposite side were attracted by him, they suddenly opened their mouths and said, "It's too arrogant for you to discuss who will deal with me in front of me. If that's the case, why don't you let me make the first move? Ask for flowers." Sound falls. Natsuki's eyes became firm, and Reiatsu broke out again. "Little ghost, you are too arrogant." Looking at Natsuki's serious appearance that doesn't seem to be fake, the Old Man Yamamoto narrowed his eyes slightly. "Then give me a try." Natsuki responded loudly to Old Man Yamamoto. The Reiatsu on his body suddenly rose sharply, and then in the vigilant eyes of the two of them, a blade glow instantly cut out. Suddenly, Old Man Yamamoto's expression changed drastically. "I saw, the target cut off by that knife light. It turned out to be Byakuya Kuchiki who lost his fighting power and was lying on the gun. Uncle, help me attract another wave of firepower." Looking at Byakuya Kuchiki with a sluggish face, Natsuki thought in his heart, then Shunpo ran away without hesitation. This moment, Shunpo learned from Yoruichi. Natsuki performed it so exquisitely that even Yoruichi would feel like, I have the same style as I did back then. What? Stay and fight old man Yamamoto. Although Natsuki is here to rob the prison, he is not an idiot, even an old man Yamamoto can't beat him. Not to mention Kyoraku Shunsui standing by. And, it's impossible for Tianwei, the Ganbon team that is still coming here. Knowing that continuing to fight will not lead to good results, why did he stay foolishly? Is it because the food outside is not good, or is freedom not good? At the same time, Yamamoto old man Shunpo appeared in front of Byakuya. Hit with a fist, the attacking sword glow instantly shattered, but Natsuki's figure has long since disappeared. Kyoraku Shunsui came immediately. Looking at Master Shan's angry face, he kindly reminded. Shan Yi, the two of us, seem to have been tricked. You be *********D, you can play tricks on me like this, it's unforgivable. Exclamation mark exclamation mark exclamation mark exclamation mark exclamation mark exclamation mark. Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekuni looks gloomy. Never would I have imagined that when I was old, I would be teased like this by a child. The most important thing is, with such a simple slap in the face, I was actually fooled. Chapter 75, Take a meal and go directly to the enemy's base camp. I have a wounded person here. Who will lift the pillar? It will crush 2 people. Where are the people from the 4th division? Urgent treatment is needed here. Sarai T. A group of Shinigami carried out rescue work among the rubble. The figure of Natsuki is also mixed in it, rescued several Shinigami from the ruins from time to time, and received a lot of thanks. Half an hour ago, he just left from the penance palace. Then they ran into a team of Shinigami team for emergency support. When the team saw Natsuki walking alone, they thought it was other members of the scattered team and invited them to help with the rescue. Exactly. He wanted to inquire about Ichigo et al. So he sneaked into the rescue team, and searched for information while rescuing. Very lucky. Everyone's luck is good this time. 183. Although scattered as in the plot, no news of their capture was heard. Soon, the sky gradually became brighter. There was only some finishing work left for the rescue, and the Shinigami, who had been exhausted all night, finally came to shift time. And at this moment, the Shinigami who lead the rescue. This will walk up to Natsuki, bow slightly and thank. Dong-mu-san, thanks to your help. If it doesn't bother you, how about going back to the 11th team to rest after going to our team for breakfast? At this time, Natsuki wears sawgrass armband. Made up a name and claimed to be a member of the 11th team. Everyone is wearing a deadly costume. Plus no one knows what Natsuki looks like. So the team really thought that Natsuki was a member of the 11th team. Although I am a little curious about when such an alternative appeared among the lunatics of the 11th team, but the gratitude is true. Facing the invitation, Natsuki immediately agreed. No trouble. This saves me time, I should be the one to thank you. He was also busy all night, so naturally he would not refuse a free breakfast, so he happily followed a few people to eat. Only, looking at the team badges of several people, Natsuki always felt that he looked a little familiar. Quote exclamation mark exclamation mark exclamation mark quote. What the hell? I'll just have a meal and be directly attacked by the enemy's base camp. 5th team gate. Looking at the number on the door, Natsuki was stunned. He forgot that the rescue team in the 13th division of Gotei is the 5th division controlled by Aizen. Working with myself for half a day. Actually working with Aizen's soldiers all the time. Seeing this, the members of the 5th squad who were rescued together asked curiously, Fuyuki-san, are you feeling unwell? I'm fine, thank you for your concern. Natsuki twitched the corner of his mouth and forced a smile. The 5th division member shook his head puzzled. But he didn't pay too much attention to it, he turned around and took Natsuki and walked towards the cafeteria of the 5th team. Along the way, the bad guy looked at Natsuki curiously. I can't figure out that Natsuki's temperament is actually a member of the 1st team. It feels like a husky mixed with wolves, it looks incongruous at first glance. But Natsuki has excellent mental quality. Even if he was sized up and down all the way, he didn't panic at all. I have the badge of the 11th squad on my shoulder, and now I am a member of the 11th squad, you can come and see it. Accompanied by looking all the way, the two finally came to the cafeteria of the 5th Division. Under the curious eyes of Dauphin Shinigami, Natsuki started his journey of making rice in the 5th team. However, I just had a few mouthfuls of breakfast. But he heard someone chatting next to him, and the content made Natsuki's eyes light up slightly. I'm so sleepy, I haven't slept all night. Don't mention it, it's like I didn't go to the rescue yesterday. You said, Captain Aizen died, and Vice Captain Hinamori was also locked up. After one night, why is our 5th Division so miserable? Not just Captain Aizen. Captain Kuchiki and Captain Ni also lost, it feels so dangerous. I heard that Captain Zaraki of the 11th team also lost to Luca, so now the 4 captains have lost. The content of the conversation was mixed. But Natsuki still sifts out a useful message. Kuratsuchi Mayuri of the 12th squad seems to be defeated by someone in his team, but in his impression, only Ichigo and Uryu have this kind of strength. This made him a little curious. Of these two, who beat Kuratsuchi Mayuri's pervert? However, just at this time, but I heard a sound coming from the loudspeaker in the corner of the cafeteria. Members of the 3rd team, after hearing the broadcast, please quickly go to Dongjiman for support. The horn sounded 3 times in a row. Meanwhile, at the first sound of the horn, the members of Division 5 who brought Natsuki to the cafeteria to have a meal earlier got up immediately, ready to run outside. See, Natsuki reached out and grabbed it, and asked, "What happened, why are you running outside?" Suddenly he was grabbed by the arm. He didn't care, he just smiled wryly. I'm afraid that another team has encountered a travel accident this time, so they asked us for help. As for why they ran out, I am the member of the 3rd team. 11. Sound falls. Natsuki looked over with a sympathetic look. It's been a busy night of rescue, and I have to go to work before I finish breakfast. Wait, Natsuki's eyes suddenly lit up. Travel disaster attack, isn't this referring to my own group of people? Now the 5th squad is going to support. By following the past, wouldn't it be possible to merge with Ichigo and the others at 1.5? Thinking up to this point, Natsuki approached the member of the 5th Division, and asked tentatively. I haven't seen a travel accident yet, why don't I go with you, just in time to see each other? Toki, is what you said true? It would be really nice if you would help. Before he finished speaking, his hands were tightly held, and when he looked up, he saw the member of the 5th Division looking at him eagerly. Listening to these words, Natsuki suddenly became a little confused. I am a travel accident, why did I hear the feeling of being ordered in danger from your mouth? Subscribe to Chinese Novel Audiobook YouTube channel. Chapter 76, Cut Off Everything, Crescent Moon. Serai T. Soul Society Political and Military Headquarters. Because of its peculiarity, only Shinigami and very few nobles can live here. The places where the nobles live are collectively called Noble Street, and there is a door in the east of which is called Dongji Gate, where the nobles come in and out every day. Boom! A loud noise suddenly exploded. Dongjiman, which has a history of thousands of years, has directly become history under one strike. Its original author, a boy holding a huge kitchen knife-shaped zanpakuto in one hand. But his short orange hair lost its brilliance at this time. Looking at the Shinigami around him, his voice was weak, but he said firmly. Sorry, I don't have time to continue entangled with you. Talking room. Kurosaki Ichigo instinctively turned to Inoue Orihime. Although the neurotoxin in her body has been removed, her mental state is still somewhat insufficient. And, I fought that pervert last night. Although the wound was healed by Orihime, the physical and spiritual power did not recover. Now the state is seriously declining, and if I continue to consume, I am afraid that I will not be able to meet Natsuki and others at 29. Simply use the crescent moon. Try these Shinigami to let go, and take Orihime away by yourself. Obviously, this effect is not bad. The Shinigami gathered around looked at the broken Dongjiman. They all looked at each other, not daring to approach easily. After all, everyone is not a fool. The strength of this brigade, obviously much stronger than normal Shinigami. If they shot easily, they might just follow the path of those previous companions. Thinking this way, someone looked behind the orange-headed boy. Over there, the fellow Shinigami who had already been lying on the ground. Although none of them suffered fatal injuries, a severe beating was still indispensable. Sudden, one of the Shinigami stood up. Although his footsteps trembled slightly, he still encouraged everyone with his voice. He doesn't have much strength, and the other one is also injured. Don't be afraid, everyone, go up and take him down. Hear the words, comma. All the Shinigami looked at each other again. Everyone may have been inspired by these words, and began to look at Kurosaki Ichigo in full swing. See, Kurosaki Ichigo sighed softly. Although he didn't want to hurt too many people, he didn't want to be trapped any longer, so he raised his hand again and said coldly. Since you refuse to back down, be careful, the deputy is dead. Quote exclamation mark exclamation mark exclamation mark exclamation mark quote. The moment the sound fell, the hearts of the Shinigami who surrounded them jumped. Didn't this young man never kill? Why did he suddenly mention the word, death? To know the reason why they never retreated. He even sent people to surround him continuously, just because he knew that this young man would not kill him, so he felt at ease to die. But did not expect. This young man suddenly mentioned the word, death. Could it be that he is planning to kill him? However, before they could react, suddenly, Kurosaki Ichigo Reiatsu converged towards the Zangetsu in his hand, and even, this huge Reiatsu made all the Shinigami present look changed. Notice this change. Once Shinigami couldn't hold back, he just came to paddle, he didn't really want to fight. Don't shoot. Aren't you harmless, why did you kill us all of a sudden? Sound falls. The surrounding Shinigami glared away. Unexpectedly, such a coward got mixed into my team. However, Kurosaki Ichigo's expression was calm. Yesterday's battle made him realize that the invasion of Soul Society by himself and others is not just a game. If he is not careful, people will really die. So, Ichigo held up Zangetsu and said coldly. You are going to attack me, can't I fight back? Everyone stared blankly. At this moment, Ichigo waved Zangetsu indifferently, and said in a high voice. Cut it all off. Crescent, Tien Chong. Suddenly, the huge Reiatsu turns into a slash and flies away. Watching this scene, all Shinigami, hostile or not, are dumbfounded. Get out of the way, get out of my way. Damn it, this travel accident is really a murderer, get out of the way. Scared, screamed, roared. The Shinigami have seen the power of the crescent sky, they dare not contend with it, and subconsciously run around. But at their speed, how can it compare to Ichigo's crescent moon? Exuding a huge Reiatsu slash, it quickly flew towards the direction of the Shinigami, extremely fast and fleeting. This moment, Yuya Tianchong finally showed his power. Ling Lai's sharp edges converged, and there was no one to beat him, and he flew straight into the crowd. Instantly, everything in the way is cut. Houses, buildings, land, and even dead Shendu all became the targets of the slash, and the blood immediately spilled on the ground. Hand, my arm. 143 inches it's been cut, I've been cut, who will save me? The lucky Shinigami looked at his severed limb in horror, screaming incessantly. And the unlucky ones, looking at his body that was divided into two, he fell into collapse in despair. Looking at this scene, even though he was mentally prepared, Kurosaki Ichigo still had a flash of unbearable eyes, and murmured. Feel sorry. I've tried to be as lenient as possible. Sound falls. The body staggered and almost fell to the ground. Fortunately, Inoue Orihime behind, grabbed Kurosaki Ichigo just in time before he falls to the ground. But the fact of his lack of physical strength is revealed at this moment to the fullest. At the same time, the support team of the 5th Division came to Dongjiman. But he didn't want to take the scene just now into his eyes, the blood spilled all over the ground immediately made everyone's eyes stagnate. This is the opponent we need to face. The leader of the team, that is, the member of the 5th Division who invited Natsuki to have breakfast, looked at the tragedy with dull eyes, the whole person is in love. Chapter 77, in the ice field, Crescent Skycrash falls suddenly. Feel sorry. Looking at the bloody picture I made. Even though Kurosaki Ichigo was prepared, he still couldn't bear it. After all, no matter how powerful he is, it still cannot change the fact that he is only 15 years old. And at this moment, although Orihime was also shocked by the bloody picture, But he noticed Ichigo's abnormality at the first time, and asked with concern. "Kurosaki-san, are you alright? What are you worried about? I'll take you to meet everyone later." But Ichigo didn't want Orihime to worry. Try to imitate the usual tone of voice. At the same time, he looked at the group of Shinigami who had just arrived. "Perhaps because of the first experience, I didn't have the idea of being merciful at the beginning." Even. His eyes gradually became firmer. "Those who want to kill, people will always kill them. These Shinigami want to kill themselves, why can't I fight back?" And at this moment, the support team from Division 5. Seeing the bloody scene, everyone was stunned. "Such a monster, can we defeat it? How can Shu, the captain is dead, and the vice-captain has also been imprisoned, is it our turn now?" Bewildered. Completely confused. Although the 5th Division is the support team of Seraiti. But there are not many people who can make a move. Seeing that Ichigo's slashing with a sword caused such a bloody scene, everyone was dumbfounded. However, the group leader narrowed his eyes and looked at Ichigo. Being able to be the team leader naturally has strengths, and his perception is extremely sensitive. Almost subconsciously, he unleashes his perception and observes Reiatsu inside Ichigo. However, the results he observed filled his eyes with excitement for an instant, and he loudly encouraged. "Everyone, don't be afraid. This trip is already at the end of its strength. Look at his body, he doesn't have much strength anymore." Sound falls. Team 5 looked at Kurosaki Ichigo together. This look. It was indeed found that the body of the traveler was trembling. Immediately, the Shinigami who were still full of fear of Kurosaki Ichigo felt that they were doing well again, and one of them shouted. "This travel accident is about to die. Everyone, don't be afraid to go up together and kill him." The man's voice fell. The Shinigami subconsciously exchanged glances to confirm each other's thoughts, and then looked at Kurosaki Ichigo. Although not explicitly stated, but when the first Shinigami burst from the line, the rest of the Shinigami present seemed to have received an order, and unanimously launched a siege. "Come on, kill the travel disaster and avenge everyone. Everyone rush, kill these 2 travel disasters, and take revenge for the dead companions." This moment, Kurosaki Ichigo has become a public enemy. But he just looked at the Shinigami indifferently, raised his Zanpakuto, pointed forward, and said indifferently. "What a mess. I don't have time to play games with you, let's fight to the death." Quote exclamation mark 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 quote. Saying these words, the attacking Shinigami has a sense of foreboding. But the next moment, when they saw Reiatsu erupting from Kurosaki Ichigo again, the group of Shinigami were dumbfounded. "What the hell? Isn't it that there is no strength, and the body is crumbling? Why did you burst out such a huge Reiatsu again? Could it be that you were pretending before?" Subconsciously, everyone looked towards the group leader. Meeting his gaze, the team leader twitched his mouth, suspiciously saying, "This, according to perception, the Reiatsu in his body is really not much, it should be only a little more than 10% of his own Isari Reiatsu." Everyone turned to look at Kurosaki Ichigo again. The co-author Reiatsu is exaggerating like this. If it was in its heyday, how terrifying would it be? And at this moment, Kurosaki Ichigo had a cold expression on his face. Silently gather the last Reiatsu in the body towards the Zangetsu in the hand. This knife. It will be his last blow. If the enemy in front of you cannot be dealt with, that can only be captured by the Shinigami who keep besieging. So, Kurosaki Ichigo stared slightly. You must not keep your hand, and you must not make mistakes. With this thought in mind, Kurosaki Ichigo will imbue the last Reiatsu's Zangetsu, swing it towards the enemy, and said coldly. Crescent, Sky Chong. This moment, history seems to repeat itself. The desperation faced by the last wave of Shinigami strikes again. This slash that exudes a huge Reiatsu quickly slashes forward. Even, with the crescent moon cut out by Reiatsu at the end. Even more powerful than the previous crescent Sky Chong, when the azure blue slash hit, it was dyed with a layer of pitch black at some point. Everything along the way, nothing can stop the advance of this crescent sky. That razor-sharp aura easily destroyed all resistance. This moment, watching the crescent sky rushing, all Shinigami's faces are extremely ugly. He wanted to dodge, but it was too late. He could only watch Yuyatian rush towards his house and wait for the newcomer. Don't don't kill me, I don't want to die yet. There is Shinigami's desperate cry, and naturally there is also the god of death, Hao Hao Jiao, with a firm face. Even if death comes, there is never a trace of regret. However, but also at this moment, a white figure gallops over. Its speed was even a few minutes faster than Yuya Tianchong, suddenly blocked in front of everyone, and immediately unsheathed the saber. Sit on the frosty sky, higher in Maru. The moment the sound fell, suddenly, a smear of frost appeared on the entire field, and everything it touched was frozen by it. Even machines. Incoming crescent sky rush. After only persisting for a moment, it was also covered in frost and fell from the sky. Quote exclamation mark exclamation mark exclamation mark exclamation mark quote. Watching the sudden reversal ending, those present, whether it was the members of the 5th Division, or Kurosaki Ichigo and Orihime, were all dumbfounded. Chapter 78. Natsuki's identity is exposed, and a group of birds' icicles are stabbed backhand. Crunch, crunch. Frost is not violent, and even a little silent. But in an instant, it covered everything around, and attacked Kurosaki Ichigo and Inoue Orihime. This scene. Say no to Kurosaki Ichigo and Inoue Orihime. Even the rescued Shinigami looked at the people in a daze, especially the Captain Haori, which attracted people's attention. Captain Hitsugaya. You are the captain of the 10th squad, the captain of Hitsugaya. Looking at the Captain Haori who came here. In addition to that standard silver hair, someone recognized his identity and exclaimed. At the same time, Hitsugaya Toshiro looked at the crowd and ordered. The next battle is not for you to participate in, go and treat the wounded. Wen Yan. All the Shinigami breathed a sigh of relief. They are afraid of being ordered to continue besieging that brigade. Fortunately, now assigned to treat the wounded. Although this kind of work is a bit tiring, at least it is not dangerous. Yes, Captain Hitsugaya. All the Shinigami bowed slightly to Hitsugaya, and then went to the side to treat the injured. At the same time, Ichigo and Orihime's eyes went dark. 943 was the frost that hit, and it began to expand bit by bit. In just a few breaths, it turned into countless ice currents, sweeping towards the two of them. Kurosaki-san. Inoue Orihime yelled worriedly. Don't worry, there is definitely a way to crack it. Kurosaki Ichigo reassured, but there was unavoidable panic in his eyes. Reiatsu is exhausted. The remaining physical strength is obviously not enough to defeat the enemy in front of him. Zanjetsu, Uncle Zanjetsu, help me. Without any choice. Ichigo could only keep calling Zanjetsu's name in his heart. Hope to defeat the enemy with the power of Zagetsu just like yesterday. Pity. No matter how much my heart calls. But until the oncoming ice climbed up his legs, Shinki didn't reply. Disappointment and despair quietly occupied Kurosaki Ichigo's heart. Disappointed that he can only go so far, but desperate that he didn't send Inoue Orihime out, causing her to die with him. It seems that I can't help you this time, really. When the ice was about to cover his head, Ichigo thought. But the next moment, a joking voice suddenly sounded in front of him. Yo, Ichigo, good morning, although I want to say hello like this, but with your current appearance, I'm afraid you can't respond. Hear the voice. Kurosaki Ichigo felt very familiar. I feel that this scene is very familiar, just like Natsuki saved himself in the first place. Shashu. Kurosaki Ichigo opened his eyes suddenly. But he saw a smiling figure standing in front of him. Natsuki. Seeing this smiling figure, Kurosaki Ichigo was stunned. At the same time, Natsuki left and right. With each hand, he touched the ice that covered Ichigo and Orihime. In an instant, the absorption skill is activated, and the spiritual power in the ice is continuously absorbed, transformed into spiritual power for storage. Only. The voice from Yuli in my heart. However, Natsuki's expression suddenly became slightly stiff. But it quickly returned to its original state, helping the two break the ice on their bodies, and conveying the spiritual power they had just absorbed. Ichigo, Orihime, I haven't seen you all night, aren't you excited to see me again? Maybe it was seeing two companions. Natsuki's personality became much more active, and he greeted the two of them with a smile. Mr. Natsuki, why are you here? You're not hurt. Orihime was as innocent as ever, and the first reaction after getting out of trouble was to care for others. It's nice to meet again though. But Natsuki, pay attention to the situation, the one behind seems very unhappy. Although I don't know why the power is recovering. But Kurosaki Ichigo still reminded Natsuki to look at the silver-haired kid behind CJFI killing the White Haori. That one. He is the captain of the Juban, Hitsugaya Toshiro. Natsuki looked sideways, and saw that Toshiro's face was a bit ugly, and he obviously recognized himself. But Natsuki didn't mind. Soul Society is not stupid, and sooner or later it will be exposed. Exposure of identity now is nothing more than 1 day earlier, 1 day later. Exclamation mark, exclamation mark, exclamation mark. Looking at Natsuki laughing and chatting. Hitsugaya Toshiro suddenly felt his head buzzing. Isn't this the accompanying team doctor next to Zaraki Kenpachi yesterday? Why did he chat so happily with Luke? Suddenly, he remembered the information that the covert maneuver had just sent. The traveler and his party who invaded Seraiti, their purpose is to rescue Rukia who is about to be executed. Think again of Rukia's charges. Question mark. Secretly having an affair with humans. Teaching the power of Shinigami to humans. Especially the second charge. It has been stated that Rukia transmits the power of Shinigami to humans. That is to say, the guy who was said to be the accompanying team doctor yesterday is actually Natsuki, the leader of the group who invaded Seraiti. Thinking of myself. Yesterday I even nodded to Natsuki. Suddenly, Hitsugaya Toshiro's face was dark, and a few words popped out between his teeth, and said coldly. Quote exclamation mark exclamation mark exclamation mark quote. UB asterisk 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 D lied to me. Get ready to die, bird icicles. Sound falls. Toshiro waved his hand violently higher in Maru. In an instant, the violent ice turned into ice bullets, attacking Natsuki like flocks of birds. However, Natsuki with his back turned. As if he didn't notice, he was still chatting with Ichigo Orihime. But Ichigo, who was facing Toshiro, saw this scene clearly, and quickly reminded. Natsuki, watch your back. But after the voice fell, he saw Natsuki chuckle suddenly. Immediately, he turned around and greeted Hitsugaya Toshiro. I'm sorry Captain Hitsugaya, I was busy chatting with good friends and forgot to say hello to you. After all, he rolled his eyes and hit himself with an ice bullet, chuckled lightly and said. Since Captain Hitsugaya is so enthusiastic, I can't turn a blind eye, right? These words, to Toshiro a little puzzled. But what happened next moment made his eyes widen. Impossible. I saw. Natsuki drew his sword out of its sheath, a smear of frost covered the blade, and then he slashed forward with his backhand. Bird icicles. Chapter 79. Weaknesses are under control, the battle will end early. Bird icicles. Ichigo and Orihime didn't react much. But Hitsugaya Toshiro, who is the master of the moves, was taken aback and looked at the scene in front of him in disbelief. I saw. With Natsuki's backhand slash. In an instant, the spirit particles in the air froze into ice bombs, and turned into countless flocks of birds, striking at the incoming flock of birds going away. This moment. It's like birds belonging to different groups are fighting. Of course, if there is any difference, the number of bird icicles cut by Natsuki is even more exaggerated than the former. Impossible. Hitsugaya Toshiro watched this scene blankly. At this moment, his cognition was thrown into the ground and crushed over and over again. Is it possible? Just like decades ago. Has anyone awakened higher in Maru's Zanpakuto again? At the same time, the leader of Division 5 who was ordered to treat the wounded. Looking at Natsuki who appeared in front of Ichigo and Orihime, his eyes were also a little dull. This Fuyuki of the 11th team turned out to be a travel disaster. Really? The two of them did the rescue work together yesterday. What the hell is it that you come here to rescue us without causing damage? But if it's true, the group leader silently swallowed a mouthful of saliva. In the morning, he even invited Luwa to his family for breakfast. The point is that Natsuki also agreed. No matter how you think about it, this feels outrageous, okay. Interesting. Is this the power of higher Inmaru? Natsuki stood there and looked at the Zanpakuto in his hand. Especially looking at the layer of frost covering the body of the knife, his face is full of curiosity. Previously, when he absorbed the spiritual power from the ice, Yuli in the inner world suddenly gave him a surprise. Indicates that the passive of Natsuki Zanpakuto's solution is triggered, successfully manipulating higher Inmaru's psychic power. Coincidentally, Natsuki's extraction comes with an analysis function. So, with the two abilities connected in series, Yuli has mastered the frequency of the spirit, and can perfectly use higher Inmaru's ability. In theory, ability mastered by the master of higher Inmaru. As long as there is enough Reiatsu, Yuli can use it by adjusting the frequency of the corresponding Reiatsu. This is also Natsuki, the reason why you can use the bird icicles. At the same time, since Yuri can use the power of higher Inmaru, this also means that other Zanpakuto powers may be used in the future. Think of this. Natsuki couldn't help but sigh in his heart, I am also a cheater. And at this time, Toshiro finally recovered from his daze. Looking at Natsuki, he looked extremely determined, and said seriously, I don't believe that you can really use higher Inmaru's power. Even if you can use it, there must be corresponding restrictions. The voice fell. He pointed higher Inmaru in his hand at Natsuki. I want to show you the true history of higher Inmaru. Oh, higher Inmaru's real power. This makes me a little curious. Natsuki rubbed his chin thoughtfully. Actually, compared to Hitsugaya Toshiro, who is the real master of higher Inmaru, although Natsuki can also use higher Inmaru's power, he is undoubtedly relatively unfamiliar with the use of abilities. If there is an in-person demonstration by Toshiro, come to think of it, I should be able to master higher Inmaru's ability as soon as possible, right? However, while Natsuki was thinking, Hitsugaya Toshiro is attacking again. Bird icicles. Perhaps in order to prove himself, he used the bird icicles again. But this time, both the quantity and the quality of the ice bombs are far more than before. Immediately, dense ice bombs blasted towards Natsuki in the form of covering all sides. At the same time, Natsuki still uses higher Inmaru's power. Hold the knife backwards, tap the tip of the knife lightly on the ground, and suddenly, the frost will pass from the tip of the knife to the ground, and then a huge ice shield will be formed. Keep Natsuki, Ichigo, or Ahime behind. Immediately. Boom, 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 boom. The dense bombardment sounds formed on the surface of the ice shield, but did not cause any damage to it. A moment later, all the ice bombs produced by the bird icicles have been bombed. Natsuki also vibrated vigorously, and the ice shield turned into ice chips and scattered all over the ground. Far away, Toshiro narrowed his eyes slightly. He was somewhat unexpected. Although the ice shield is simple, its defense is not weak. Ask for flowers. Even the icicles of birds can be easily blocked, which makes him more curious how Natsuki has the ability to control the ice. But before that, he also needs to let Natsuki know who has the real higher Inmaru. Ice Dragon's spinning tail. Toshiro's Reiatsu condensed from higher Inmaru. Immediately, with a light tap, one appeared in front of Natsuki and the other three, and a ring slashed at the three of them. Pause time. Layers of ice appeared in the area where higher Inmaru's blade cut. The ice kept sweeping towards the three of them, and there was an impulse to seal the three of them in the ice. But this time, however, Natsuki tapped the layers of ice with a knife in one hand, and smiled at the corner of his mouth. Your ability is good, but the strength doesn't seem to be high. 0.0. Sound falls. This layer of ice, from the position of the tip of the knife in Natsuki's hand. It began to collapse little by little, and after just a few breaths, this cold water field completely turned into a piece of water and fell to the ground. Exclamation mark, exclamation mark, exclamation mark. What happened? Toshiro's eyes trembled. His own attack was completely defeated by a single touch. And looking at Toshiro's expression, Natsuki was not in a hurry, but explained in a kindly way. Because of higher Inmaru's ice-controlling properties, the Reiatsu in your body is strong. I suppose, and to control this Reiatsu, you have trained hard. While talking, Natsuki bent down and picked up a piece of ice on the ground. Hold it with your index finger and thumb, put it in front of your eyes and observe carefully, and comment. Sure enough, I chose to reduce the strength of the ice cube for better control. so I can easily find the weak point, and it will fall apart as soon as I touch it. At the same time, Natsuki smiled slightly, but at this moment, this smile is so cold in Toshiro's eyes. In you, after being controlled by your weakness, this battle can already be declared over in advance. The voice fell. Toshiro's pupils shrank suddenly, and his expression was extremely ugly. No. Impossible. This is a weakness that only you know. Why, you, a traveler, know it all. Chapter 80, Toshiro, have you ever experienced the feeling of being frozen? Just ask. An enemy whom he has only met twice. What kind of experience is it to suddenly tell your weakness directly in front of you? Serai T. Noble Street, Dongjiman. Hitsugaya. Toshiro's face is very ugly. After all, if anyone's weakness is exposed in front of everyone, it will inevitably be this kind of reaction. Traveling, how do you know? At this moment, Toshiro couldn't help asking. But in his mind, but I can't help but see Natsuki holding a piece of ice with his index finger and thumb just now, and observing carefully. Could it be, with such a small gesture? If this is the case, the person in front of him is too terrifying. And at this moment, hearing Toshiro's inquiry, Chichi-san, Natsuki didn't hold back at all, and explained directly. My ability is special, and my sensitivity to spirit suns is relatively high. It's not difficult to see. But the two are still fighting. It seems that I am sorry for the identities of the two of them if they only chat without fighting. Then, Ice Dragon's spinning tail. Natsuki directly in front of Toshiro. Raise your Zanpakuto, and use the opponent's ability without fear. Reiatsu condensed from Yuli in an instant, feeling the chill from the blade in his hand. Natsuki Shunpo used it, and simply slashed forward. Rustle. Swing the knife too fast and leave afterimages. But what attracted the most attention was the half-moon-shaped frost slash that appeared in midair. Puff. Slash across the body, blood spurts. Hitsugaya. Toshiro looked down in disbelief. But seeing the deadly domineering outfit was easily scratched, and the knife marks from the heart to the waist emerged. The wound. Blood droplets kept gushing out, but turned into blood droplets under the interference of the ice. I'm injured, and still hurt by Hiranmaru's power. Dazed, Toshiro looked at the wound blankly. As the master of Hiranmaru, he is naturally aware of Hiranmaru's spiritual energy. However, Natsuki could clearly sense Hiranmaru's aura during the slash attack just now. Now he has to admit, Natsuki also has the power of Hiranmaru. At that moment just now, he had clearly dodged Natsuki's attack, but the half-moon-shaped ice slash that appeared out of nowhere seriously injured him with one blow. This is for the Captain Class Shinigami. Obviously a little ridiculous, but it really happened. Hateful. Absolutely, I can't spare you. Feeling the pain in the body at this moment, Toshiro was angry and hurt by his own Zanpakuto's ability. This feeling of being NT red is not good. Under anger, he just wants to kill the little thief who stole Hiranmaru's power. At this moment, the Reiatsu on his body began to soar, and the icy and biting breath spread in the atmosphere. Far away, watching this scene, Reiatsu is skyrocketing. Are you ready to solve it? Seeing Toshiro's state at this time, Natsuki narrowed his eyes slightly. Seriously look at his state at this time, keep it firmly in your heart, and even add Yuli to your memory. Now, Toshiro did not discover it all. Before he knew it, the Reiatsu on Natsuki began to draw closer to him. Right now, he is brewing his own power. Reiatsu keeps skyrocketing, and turned into an extremely cold current erupting from the body. While freezing everything around it, it turns into a half-body armor and wraps around the body. Feel the swelling Reiatsu. Toshiro held the knife in one hand, pointed in the direction of Natsuki, and said coldly. Quote question mark. Daiguren Hiranmaru. The moment he looked away. But I couldn't help being stunned. I saw that Natsuki in the distance was doing the same operation as me. No, not right. His aura is even stronger. This moment. Natsuki pointed to the sky with a knife in one hand. Boundless ice burst out from the blade, turning the entire sky into a gloomy color. Like a god, endless reiki are transformed into Natsuki's breath, and finally all poured into his body. Boom! There was a thunderbolt from the blue sky, and at this moment, Natsuki swung his sword sharply, and the boundless cold current surged out, threatening to turn everything into ice. But in the end, gathering towards Natsuki's back again, it forms a pair of ice wings, exuding a breathtaking icy breath, and the iconic 3 ice crystals hang vividly behind it. Subsequently, looking at Toshiro, Natsuki let out a breath of cold air, and said coldly, quote, ? Like rain Yuli heaven and earth tribulation. Change Daiguren higher Enmaru. Sound falls. Hitsugaya Toshiro's mind went blank. ? Comma, exclamation mark, ? How could a travel accident master the solution? The point is, if you use my swastika solution to solve it, what is the situation? Could it be possible to copy the ability of others' Zanpakuto? However, but never thought. While Toshiro was still thinking, Natsuki's attack has already struck silently. I saw him pointing at Toshiro with a single-handed knife, and said with a light smile, do not know. Have you ever experienced the feeling of being frozen by ice? ? Toshiro regained consciousness instantly. But the next moment, PFF'd. Blood flowed from the corner of the mouth. His eyes widened in disbelief. I saw a long knife with frost strikes from behind. The hard ice armor was pierced through his abdomen all the way as if there was nothing there. No. Impossible. He slowly raised his head and looked into the distance. 3.7 Natsuki is still standing there, showing no sign of making a move, so who is sneaking up on him? But before he figured out the result, the power of ice contained in this long knife. From the wound, it spread out bit by bit, completely freezing the whole body. It's not that I don't want to resist. But this icy power far exceeds Reiatsu himself. The result of my resistance has actually accelerated the process of freezing. This moment, Toshiro looked down at his reflection in the ice crystals on the ground. As a Shinigami who controls the power of ice, do I end up being frozen in ice by the enemy? Before the mind fades away, he is still thinking, Natsuki, how on earth can he use Higher Enmaru's power? Thank you for watching. Continue exploring the fascinating world of Chinese novels with us. Hit that subscribe button on Chinese Novel Audiobook to stay updated with our latest stories. And never miss out on a great listen.